I got a lot to prove, bro. I got a lot to prove. Just trying to prove everybody wrong, man. Everybody. I'm gonna make this week pay, bro. If it's not this year, it's coming, for sure. Just wait. Just wait, just wait, just wait, just wait.
Bro, we got one life, you know what I mean? You got one opportunity at this. We have one prime as an athlete. We got one shot to maximize everything we got. There's always going to be doubters. There's going to be haters. There's going to be people that say whatever they want. But, like, when you know what you do on a daily basis, you ain't got to explain nothing. The results are going to speak for themselves, you know what I mean? You ain't got to say nothing, explain nothing. Like, I know I'm going to be the most prepared and best conditioned and the most competitive you ever met. And that's what you got to be every single day.
It's Unnecessary Roughness. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right. Here's your boy Q.
And here we go, Raider Nation. We come into the sounds of rookie Mike Washington Jr. and also Max Crosby, basically talking about proving everybody wrong and that there's always going to be doubters. There's always going to be folks that don't believe in your ability, and you've got to go out there as an individual and put your best foot forward, which ultimately leads to the team putting their best foot forward and continuing to show and prove others to be wrong. It is Unnecessary Roughness here on RaiderNation Radio 920. My man Ari back in the Lotus Broadcasting Studio. I'm here in Studio Q, ready for another week. Excited about the show as we always are, and we made it. Give yourself a round of applause. We made it, Raider Nation. It is training camp week. We will talk to head coach Clint Kubiak on tomorrow, and then on Wednesday it will go full throttle. We'll be out there bright and early, 7:30 in the morning for training camp, and they'll have a couple days of ramp-up period that the pads will come on, and a lot of competition will be going on, and guys fighting for spots. I've said it before. There's not a whole lot of empty positions. There's not a whole lot of spots that aren't already written in ink, but for those spots that are available, there's going to be a lot of competition. And even with that being said, you're always competing with yourself to put the best film out there. You put the best film out there, you make the powers that be. You make decision makers think twice or go back and look again and say, wait, hold on, I might not have expected this from this player, or maybe we underestimated this player, or maybe we overestimated this player, and we can get the same production, if not better, from this other guy who really popped during training camp. So obviously there was a lot on the line. As you heard Max say, you only get one crack at this thing. Nothing is guaranteed. The NFL stands for not for long for a reason. The average life expense, life timetable, I should say, for an NFL player is what, 3 years, 3.5 years? It ain't much. So you got to get what you can get while you can get it, right? And go out there and continue to earn your spot. And that's something that you don't have to worry about with Max Crosby. You know he's going to do that as he arrived with the rookies last Thursday at training camp. He's out there. I just saw the NFL transactions. I'm blessed enough to be on that list where you're able to get all the transactions across the league. So I was looking at them and seeing all the different players that are on the PUP list and realizing that, as John Spytek spoke with Albert Breer over the weekend, the Raiders aren't expecting to have anyone on the PUP list to start training camp. Matter of fact, they said the roster has 30 rookies on it, 16 new veterans. The team projects, as it stands right now, to have newcomers in 9 of 22 starting positions. So that's a big deal, right? 9 new starters in 22 starting positions. Now, that doesn't mean that those are going to be 9 spots earned in training camp, because Tyler Linderbaum is a newcomer. Right? Quay Walker is a newcomer. Nakobe Dean, guys like that. Jalen Naylor, those are all newcomers as well, and obviously the draft. But it's just interesting to understand that there's 22 starting positions, 11 on each side of the ball, obviously, and there's going to be 9 new bodies in those positions. Spytek went on to tell Albert Breer in the Monday Morning Quarterback, SI.com. You can check it out if you want for yourself. We didn't have anybody on the PUP or the NFI injury list or any of it, at least with the guys returning from injury. And I don't have any expectations on Tuesday when the rest of the group gets here that we'll have that. I think we're going to have 91 guys on the grass. Now, again, things could change. Someone could arrive, a veteran could arrive tomorrow, and they say, okay, well, hey, you know what? That guy is going to go on the PUP list. But for them to anticipate not having anybody on the PUP list, what did we talk about on Friday? For any of you who joined us on this fine show we call Unnecessary Roughness here on RaiderNation Radio 920, we were talking about Christmas in July, right? And if you go back and look at the text and you go back and listen to the show, the majority of it was, I wish and I give the Raiders health. And, health is nothing you can ever guarantee in National Football League. But if you're healthy, at least to start things off, you're not going to get any healthier than you are right now, right? I mean, you haven't gone through all these series of car accidents every single play, and that's what basically every play is in the National Football League. It's a car accident, right? And you have to make sure you maintain your body the best possible way. You're not going to be any healthier than you are right now, but to see that the Raiders are anticipating going into training camp with nobody on the PUP list, I think that's a great step in the right direction. Right, and again, health is just something that you can hope for. You can do everything you can to maintain it, but nothing's ever guaranteed. So that's just one quick step. But man, it's exciting to know that we'll be out there. We'll be checking out the practices. We'll be talking to players and coaches, and kind of seeing how the sausage is made. Right, seeing how it all comes together behind the scenes. So it's been a while. We've been talking about a lot of different subjects, from the free agency to the draft to kind of. Not even training camp battles. I didn't want to get that far ahead of ourselves when training camp hasn't even started, but there's been a lot of different conversations and expectations, and we are finally here. So very excited, very pumped up about that. Real quick, I do want to let you know that coming up on Friday, just like we were this past Friday, we'll be at Treasure Island, the Golden Circle Sportsbook, Golden Circle Sports Bar, whatever you want to call it. One of my favorite places to do a show from here in town. We'll be there from 2 to 5 p.m. So I'll leave the practice facility and make a beeline over to Treasure Island. So I already had a couple people tweet at me and say, hey, I'm in town. Where are you going to be this week? Are you going to be out and about? Yes. Right? And I say it all the time. Me being out and about is like me being on a field trip. Remember how field trip day used to be the most fun day of school? Hey, we're going on a field trip today. We're going where? Who cares? We're just leaving, right? I didn't care where the field trip was going. I just wanted to go because I knew I was out on the road. I was going to be somewhere. Well, it's the same thing. Coming up on Friday, I'll be on a field trip. I'll be there at Treasure Island, the Golden Circle Sports Bar, 2 to 5 p.m. Parking is always free. I'll have a lot of prizes, and someone told me I have some AC/DC tickets to give out at Allegiant Stadium, which is a big stinking deal. Now, I said someone told me that. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. Don't hold me to it yet, right? I'll find out throughout the course of the week, but I did want to put that little birdie in your ear just so you know that that's where we'll be at. This fine program will be generated from coming up on Friday. But coming up today, got a big show lined up for you, as we always do. Kirk Morrison, Raiders broadcast, Tackle for Loss TV, longtime NFL linebacker and Raiders linebacker, will join us as he always does on Monday, talking about just the silver and black. So he'll join us at 2:30. It should be a fun conversation, and really want to get Kirk's thoughts on 9 newcomers out of 22 starting positions, right? And the 30 rookies on the team, and 16 new veterans that are on the team, and what that dynamic does for an organization, and what that dynamic is expected to do for this organization. The one theme that I've had, no matter who I'm talking to about the Raiders or where I'm talking about the Raiders, and it's so fun, man, right now, especially when everything is good. It's great to be in and around town, and people are like, hey, Q, what do you think about the Raiders? Like, everything is good. Everything is smiles. Everybody's happy. Last year, man, I'm up here ducking and dodging out of traffic, man. People, Q, tell the Raiders they stink. I'm like, oh, man, Raider Nation was not happy. But when you win 3 games, that's what it is. So, coming off a weekend and seeing a lot of people, and I promise you, everywhere I go, ran into some folks on Saturday night. They're like, man, I've been waiting to see you. I knew I was going to see you. I just wanted to know what's going on with the Raiders, man. Everything looks good and sounds good. And I was like, well, it is right now, right? I mean, that's what you want. That's the positive energy that you want. But genuinely, I do believe there's a lot of really good positive energy from this organization, and it's not generated by Clay Baker and Vinny Bonsignore and Vince Sapienza or JT or me or anyone else that covers the team. It's generated by the team. John Spytek and company, they've generated this positive momentum. It's not coming from us like, hey, we got a reset. We get to create some fun content. This is going to be cool. And everyone, just look through silver and black glasses and everything's going to be fine. I mean, they genuinely have created this positive buzz that is riding with the team right now. And that is what I believe is so much fun and in anticipation of what we're going to see over the next handful of weeks, and obviously the 3 preseason games with the Cardinals, the Texans, and also the 49ers. So looking forward to that, looking forward to the conversations each and every day, and again, just kind of telling you and riding with you on how this team is being put together on the daily. So Kirk Morrison will join us coming up at 2:30, and we'll talk all things training camp and just what this roster could potentially look like. Then Paul Gutierrez, Raiders.com. Usually he joins us a little bit later on in the week, but he had to sit down upon further review. He had to sit down with Fernando Mendoza, and that's really cool. And as I was watching it and checking it out, it's just, I mean, the dude's always on point. Well, actually, both of them are on point. Paul's always on point, but Fernando Mendoza's always on point too, right? Always on point when it comes to his answers. They're well thought out. They're like they're rehearsed, but he understands, the way to communicate, I guess is the best way to put it. The way to communicate it to get his point across. And, he's just he's a dude to get excited about, not just because he's the number 1 overall pick, not just because he's a quarterback, but you really, truly feel like, at least I do, that he genuinely wants to be the best. He wants to continue to be the best Fernando Mendoza he could be each and every day. Max Crosby wants to be the best Max Crosby. Max wants to be the best edge rusher. Max wants to be the best football player in general. Like, that's his goals. But him and Mendoza, even though they might have the same goal, it just seems like they go about it a different way, and neither one is wrong, right? They're both two different ways of pushing themselves to greatness, and it works. And so that's exciting when you have those kind of players on your team, right? You want to have guys that are self-motivators. You want to have guys that don't need someone else to push them, guys that can get up out of bed and ready to push themselves each and every day. That's why Max showed up at the facility at 3-something on Thursday when the rookies reported, walking and skipping and jumping into the facility like he was ready to go. First day of school, he's lined up the first guy to take his class picture. Like he was good to go. So I get that same vibe from Fernando, and the fact that he is the quarterback and he is going to be the franchise guy is something to feel pretty positive about as well. So those are the two guests that we have lined up on the show. Kirk Morrison at 2:30, Paul G coming up at 3 o'clock. We'll hear from you throughout the course of the show as well at 702-365-9200. Before we get to the opening drive, we definitely got to hear from our guy Ari, because he's got to have the word of the day for the Summer of Fun that's being brought to you by Terribles. And this week, as a matter of fact, we have a brand new trip. It is the Grand Canyon and Sedona trip. So there you go, Ari. So you can get the trip. You can take the cash. The cash is $3,000. So what is today's word of the day?
It is red. R-E-D. Red.
Sounds like a recycled word from the 4th of July.
Hey, whatever.
Sounds like I may have recycled that word for the 4th of July. I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
A lot of
I've been trying to stuff the ballot box and try to help everyone win here, and for some reason it's backfired on me. I haven't got a winner yet.
You know what, though? I was looking at it. We still have, I think there's like 4.
Yeah, there's multiple trips still.
Yeah, so
we have Grand Canyon Sedona this week, Yellowstone or Grand Canyon National next week, and then we've got the granddaddy of them all. We've got the trip to Hawaii, which, hey, look, if nobody wants to win that trip, I'll sacrifice myself.
I'm sure
I'll just say I'll sacrifice myself.
Such a generous guy. Such a selfless act, Q.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to have to sweat anyone to go to Hawaii. I'll take that.
Right.
Just saying. So those are the trips that we have left. And again, like I said, you don't have to take the trip. You can always take the cash. The cash is $3,000. So just in case it doesn't fit in with your timing, but you say, you know what, the $3,000 is good. I could do that. That's cool too. So you get in to win just by texting in the word of the day, and the word of the day is simple: red. R-E-D. So there you go. Get that in. You have till 5 o'clock to make it happen. So now we got to hear from our guy E-Rob. We heard from Ari. We got to hear from E-Rob. The weekend was important. Tomorrow's going to be important. Training camp's important. But today's important as well. And why is that?
Because every day matters. The older you get, the more you start appreciating day in and day out. Because I can't get that time back. I'm in the business of saying, not if I would have did this or if I would have did that. I'm in the business of now.
I'm in the business of now as well. So right now, let's jump into the opening drive.
The opening drive of Unnecessary Roughness on RaiderNation Radio 920 AM is brought to you by Paul Patta Law. It's not about the injury, it's about the recovery.
So Big Jim hit us on the text line already at 702-365-9200, and he just texted yay and had a look like a little celebratory emoji on that one. I guess that's what is that? Is that?
I never know. I use it a lot too. It's like I guess like a confetti kind of.
It looks like it's like confetti is blowing up or something. But Jim is saying yay. I'm not sure what he's saying yay to, but that's okay. Maybe he's Ice Cube and he's saying yay. Who knows? Maybe he's doing a little bit of both. I don't know.
Fair enough. Maybe because you were saying, hey, we're pretty much we made it. We're here. We're about that point. So. Maybe he is.
Something tells me he was probably being a funny guy, but it's okay. Hey, look, funny guys are cool, so absolutely. I can appreciate that. Funny guys are better than mean guys and angry guys. Right. So there you go. So appreciate you, Jim, for hitting us on the text line with the simple yay. So now getting into the subject at hand today, want to talk about the Raiders and if there's any chance you feel like they could be being overlooked at this stage of the game. We know that they're a 3-win team. We know that there's a lot of turnaround and turnover on this team. We know that there's a new head coach. We know there's a lot of new in place. And, a lot of people have asked, what's your expectations? How many wins do you think the Raiders are going to get this year? And I've been very, as a matter of fact, around the 6 or 7 win total, only because you want to win, or you want to double what you did last year, right? Especially when you only win 3 games. So I don't want to raise the bar too high, but it does make me wonder, are the Raiders being overlooked, in your opinion, right now? Do you expect them to outperform the expectations, and why? That's the question that I ask at 702-365-9200. And the reason I asked that question is because I heard Gerald McCoy, who had a cup of coffee with the Silver and Black, hell of a player. I hated that he got injured. I do think he could have been a nice addition to that Raiders defense, but he's a dude that has been a pros pro whenever he was in the league for the entirety of his career, and all he did is spit wisdom no matter where he went or what team he was representing for. And I heard him on the Rich Eisen show, and he was talking about the Raiders and the fact that he feels like they're being slept on, and he explained why.
Well, once a Raider, always a Raider.
I understand that. I get it.
And if I'm them, I take what they have, and I really look at, is it necessary to throw Mendoza out there right now? A lot of people say, just throw him out there, throw him in the fire, let him. One, Max Crosby has a point to prove. He's a little pissed off. Okay. Actually, he's a lot of pissed off. I was just with Max in Vegas. He has a point to prove. And Max is extremely upset. And he's going to have these guys on a mission.
He's upset about what, Gerald? Like, give me a point. He's upset that the trade got taken back because they didn't believe in his knee. And
yes,
that's what he's pissed about.
That he loves the Raiders, for one.
Okay.
But he was traded. Okay. But then he was given back. So it's almost like they saying, we don't really need you, but we need you. And then the other team is saying, you just kind of lost a step. We don't really trust you.
So he's pissed at the world, is what you're saying.
Max is out to prove a point. I'm Max Crosby for a reason.
Okay.
And he's going to bring the guys with him.
And he's out to prove that point for the Raiders.
Yes. Okay. Quarterback-wise.
Okay.
You got, for me, I just let Kirk Cousins rock. And if you don't have to throw out the kid, then you don't throw out the kid. But this offense, I believe that Kirk can run it. It's in that McVay tree, and he just knows how to run this offense. And collectively, I just believe that the Raiders can surprise some people.
Okay.
Everybody else wasn't really not really sleepers. So I had to just kind of, go deep in the bag and just pull somebody out of there.
Yeah. I mean, the team that drafted first overall. That's a good one to choose as a sleeper going in.
There you go. There was Gerald McCoy on the Rich Eisen show on ESPN talking about the Raiders as a sleeper and why. And as you heard him say at the end, he had to dig deep into his bag. There were some other teams that he was looking at that he didn't really think were sleepers, but he considered the Raiders sleepers and why. You heard him talk about the quarterback position, Kirk Cousins, and, don't put the kid in there if you don't have to put the kid in there. Obviously, the kid is Fernando Mendoza. If you have to, go for it. And that's going to be one of those conversations that'll be debated back and forth until Fernando finally gets into the game. We know that. How long have we been talking about that? Ever since the Raiders drafted. Matter of fact, I think that conversation popped up even before they officially drafted him. What's the plan in place now that Kirk Cousins is here, and how long is Kirk Cousins going to hold it down until Fernando? I mean, those were the conversations going back to early April. And Fernando wasn't drafted till late April. So, that's going to be a conversation piece. That's going to be something that's going to be talked about every single day in training camp. I'm sure that Clint Kubiak, when he stands in front of us tomorrow, someone will ask him a question or two that has to do with when they'll be comfortable throwing him into the mix. That's the daily, right? You can not listen to the radio for a day and come back and be like, all right, at some point someone's going to say something about Fernando Mendoza starting. So you hear Gerald McCoy talking about Kirk Cousins and how he could run the offense and be successful in the offense. And obviously he's got the familiarity with Clint Kubiak back in Minnesota. I love what he said about Max, and this is why. And maybe I'm a weirdo, and I'm okay. I don't mind signing up for being a weirdo. I love it when people are angry. I do. I personally think that people are better when they're angry. I think that people have something to prove. Now, I know sometimes it backfires. Sometimes people get angry and they don't really have their head right and they're not able to make decisions. That's usually coaches. That's why coaches say they try to keep a level head on the sideline, because when they get fired up and angry, as Matt Rule told me one time, I make bad decisions then. But as far as players go or professionals in general, I sign up for if you're angry, I'm going to get the best version of you. And Max is an alpha, and you can go all up and down the line of NFL alphas. players that are current, players that have been. And the ones that can be self-motivating and find a reason to feel slighted or feel, they have a chip on their shoulder for whatever reason, whether it's a true reason or a manufactured reason, it doesn't matter. That's what those dudes do. That's why they separate themselves from, everyone in the league. You make it to the league, you're good. Matter of fact, you're really good if you make it to the league, right? How many great college players do we see that never, ever sniffed the NFL for one reason or the other? So you make it to the NFL. I know you're really good, but what separates you? What turns you into an alpha as opposed to a role player or a good player? It's in you. It's what you are decide you're going to be and the way that you push yourself. And Max will do that, right? Hell, Max got Kobe, MJ, and Muhammad Ali and his daughter tattooed on him, right? That's some great company. You want to talk about motivation? This dude wakes up every single morning and looks at himself in the mirror and sees those alphas on his chest. That don't push you at all? And some will say, yeah, that's a little extreme, Q. Yeah, but it worked for him, right? It works for him. I ain't going to lie to you. Back in the day, when I first really wanted to dedicate myself to radio, what was this, 1999 maybe or 2000? I went and tatted radio across my belly like I was Tupac. Right? It was like, what's that for? Because every day I got to remember what the goal is. I got to remember what the goal is. I got to keep my mind motivated and pushed. And at that age, you could do the math. In 99, I wasn't the wisest man. So, I had a lot to be desired in 1999 and early 2000. But I just wanted to have that visual every single day. Every day I look in the mirror, I can remember, okay, that's the goal. You got to be the best version of yourself there. And if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. If you're not, well, then here comes the grocery store, or here comes FedEx, or here comes whatever you're going to do. Like, figure it out. You got to figure it out. I love the fact that Gerald McCoy said, I was with Max and he's pissed. Pissed off at everybody. Great. I'm anticipating a hell of a season for him. I said that the day that the trade got rescinded. I said, well, I feel bad for whoever lines up across that guy. And the organization traded him, and I believe on the Raiders side of things, that was a mutual type situation. And then on the Ravens side, they said, yeah, you're not really worth those 2 first-round picks that we were going to give up for you because of a knee issue. But we're going to go sign Trey Hendrickson immediately after because his stock has fallen and the price tag is less. And the team that you came from already took our center. And so now we're void there, and we need some reinforcements, and not having those 2 first-round picks is going to compromise this team. Yeah, that was all part of the process. So Max is going to be motivated, but I just love what Gerald McCoy said there. So, again, I throw the question out there to you at 702-365-9200. Are the Raiders being overlooked right now? Do you expect them to outperform expectations, and why? And if you're a betting man, right now the expectations is 5.5 wins. Now, I'm not telling you got to call me and give me a win total, but more times than not, until the last couple seasons, the Raiders have exceeded their win total. So, take that for what it's worth, right? It might not be worth the paper that it's written on, but they have done that. Now, obviously, the last couple years have been tough. We know that. But this definitely feels like this is the beginning. When training camp opens up and we're out there on Wednesday, feels like it's the beginning of a new chapter of Raider football. And hopefully it's the chapter of Raider football that everyone wants to go to and read and talk about, hey, that was the beginning of the next great run of the Silver and Black. Let's go out to Sacramento, the 916. Talk to our guy, Raider Greg. Raider Greg, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Q, my brother, Hugh and Ari, thank you for taking my call. It's a pleasure to be back. Got a report for camp. The players are here, so I'm expecting all our callers took, and then I know mention guys kept it strong. So we're reporting back for duty, Q. So I just want to let you know we're back.
Welcome
in full
back.
Effect,
Clock in for duty. Clock in for duty.
Exactly. Got a report for duty. When I look at it, Q. So last year we had 3 wins. They got us projected for 5.5. Even on paper, if you look at it from a business standpoint, that's about, I think, 83% improvement year over year. So I know that the wins themselves don't sound like a lot from 3 to 5, but it's really 5.5. You round it up to 6, right? Mm-hmm. So it's almost double. Ask any business if they'd like to get 83% better on the EBITDA margin year over year. That's successful business, right? Yep. So if you look at it from that standpoint, I don't really think that they're overlooking us. I just think that you can only I always take it to business because that's what I do, Q. So I look at it, if you go year over year, just the past 5 to 10 years, if you're looking at that sample size, you haven't seen too much consistent growth. And you've seen names on paper. Now, I do agree that on paper, this is the best team that I can remember in a very long time on paper.
Right.
But you got to go see them go out there and win. Plus, the schedule's so difficult, man. I mean, it's a gauntlet. I mean, every time I try to find little areas, I'm kind of with you. I'm at the 6-7 win mark, but I try to look at the schedule and try to convince myself that they're going to be better, every week. But it's just, you're going to need the ball to bounce your way. You're going to need a lot of turnovers. You're going to need some special team play. So I don't think they overlooked us. I think they kind of gave us a leg up. Now, if they would have put us at 3 wins again, then that's kind of disrespectful saying they didn't see any growth. But I think if you just look at the data, which I love doing from a business standpoint, with an 83% growth over year to year, I think that's a great business model, and any business would love that. And we're moving in the right direction. Do I think they're going to do better than 5.5? Yes, because I have them at 6 to 7, right? But I think you're moving in the right. If you can go 83% every year, let's say if you even tick up a business 70% every year, that's a very successful business. So I think we're right where we need to be, and you got to prove it on Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, pretty much every day pretty soon. So God bless you, and God bless RaiderNation, brother.
Hey, Raider Greg with a great call right there. It sounds like Raider Greg needs to be doing our taxes. It sounds like Raider Greg can help us on our tax returns. Well, this 73% or 83% margins right here, and this, business. Hey, I like that, man. Hey, the smart guys. We need the smart guys too, as I ain't one of them. I can promise you that. So, hey, man, I could appreciate that. And who wouldn't want to see 83% growth in anything? Give me an 83% growth on my paycheck, right? We'll take that. Ari's like, hell yeah. Ari just gave me a double thumbs up. I ain't never seen Ari give a double thumbs up as quick as he did right there. He was like, yes, talking to you, Q. Nice. We'll take that up with the powers that be, Ari. How about that? We'll go present that.
Sounds
we'll go present that. There you go. We'll get Raider Greg to present that for you, and we'll see how that works out. But really good call, and I do I like your points that you bring up. And again, I'm right there around the 6 or 7 win total. But maybe they are still overlooking the Raiders as far as how competitive they're going to be, what kind of team they're going to field, or if it's just going to be all right. That's that team that is the get right team on the schedule. Let us know your thoughts. 702-365-9200. Are the Raiders being overlooked right now? Do you expect them to outperform expectations, and why? Let us know your thoughts. Kirk Morrison, he joins us next. It's RaiderNation Radio 920.
That was the opening drive of Unnecessary Roughness on RaiderNation Radio 920 AM. Brought to you by Paul Padala. It's not about the injury. It's about the recovery.
I believe that there is a price to admission with the Raiders, and especially getting the blessing of wearing his number, like you said, a Hall of Fame coach year. And that means a lot. I mean, he's someone that is a legend, a Hall of Famer, and I believe that it is important to pay respects to the ones that laid the foundation and the ones that made and paved the path possible to now what the Raiders organization is now, because he played a huge part in it. And I believe getting his blessing and being initiated and admitted into the silver and black, that was a very important part.
Las Vegas Raiders color analyst Kirk Morrison joins us now on Unnecessary Roughness.
We come into the sounds of Fernando Mendoza talking about Tom Flores and paying respect to Raiders legends. That was part of Upon Further Review with Paul Gutierrez, who will actually join us to talk about that in great detail coming up in about 30 minutes or so. We are efforting to get Kirk Morrison on the show. As soon as we do, Ari will give us the thumbs up, and we'll go ahead and go to Captain Kirk. But in the meantime, in between time, we do want to hear from you at 702-365-9200. We've been talking about the Raiders, and are they being overlooked right now? Do you expect them to outperform the expectations, and why? And maybe you don't expect them to outperform your expectations because your expectations for them are already high, right? That could be another element, another layer of this conversation. Depending on what your expectations are for this team, they could maybe live up to the expectations, or they could, maybe if you have them real low, then anything is going to be, a good positive. But again, it's all about your perspective, your thoughts, and your why at 702-365-9200. Like Hot Sauce Raider said, Q, the reason the silver and black are being overlooked is due to the division they play in. The Chiefs, Donkeys, and Chargers are all possible AFC Championship teams. You want to be the man, you got to beat the man. It's an uphill battle, but anything is possible. Go Raiders. There you go. That's reality, and we've talked about that division quite a bit. We talked about the division not being the easiest one. Like I said before, if they were in the NFC South, right, then it's all good. They're in the NFC South. I mean, you don't even have to have a winning record to go on and win the division. We saw that last year. The Carolina Panthers, the matter of fact, the Carolina Panthers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and not the Saints, and the Falcons, they all ended up with the same record, but because of the tiebreaker, Carolina went and improved to the playoffs, but yeah, they didn't have a winning record. So, yeah, the division does matter. And that's the thing. The Raiders haven't done very well in the division, obviously, right? They have to, and I believe Chris Canty said this last year when he was talking about the expectations about this time of year. He said the Raiders have to at least go 500 in their division. For them to probably, not overachieve, but for them to really get off to a really good start, you'd like to see them go at least 500 in their division. Obviously, you want them to have a winning record in the division, but when you haven't done very well in your division in the last handful of years, you'll take 500. And that's a positive step. I'm really intrigued by this Week 4 game against Kansas City, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I just don't know what to expect from that team that early on in the season with Patrick Mahomes coming back from the ACL, LCL tear. I don't know what to expect. He might end up going out there and being Superman, and by the time they get to Week 4, and he might look up and say, oh, same old Patrick Mahomes, he's still that dude. But there's also a chance that he's not. And so how compromised will he be, and how much will his game be changed? Or will it be, just business as usual for Kansas City? So that's one that I'm really intrigued by. Obviously, every game I'm intrigued by, and every game I'm excited to see. But that's one that I just don't know what to expect, and that's the reason why. The Chargers game, I expect to see a pretty good offense. As long as they're healthy, I expect to see a pretty good offense because I do believe that Mike McDaniel is a good OC. I don't think he's a very good head coach, but I think he's a really good OC. But also, how does his offensive philosophy fit in with Jim Harbaugh's offensive philosophy? Knowing that Jim Harbaugh has always been a very physical, in-the-trenches type guy, and my thoughts on Mike McDaniel is that he's a very finesse, basketball on grass type of guy, right? If he was a college coach, he'd be coaching in the Big 12. At least that's what I think. That's my thoughts. So the division, to your point, Hot Sauce, does have a lot to do with it. And if the Raiders want to, not erase that doubt, but start to get that respect, they're going to have some success in the AFC West. The AFC West, and then who brought this up? Raider Greg brought this up earlier. The schedule that they play, since they've got to play the NFC West, is not going to be an easy task either. I mean, you got the Rams, you got the Seahawks. Of course, you got the Cardinals, but whatever. And then you got the 49ers. I mean, the Cardinals are nothing to shake a stick at, but the heavy hitters are the other three. The Cardinals will be – every team is going to be tough, but those other three, man, that's going to be an absolute monster. Right? The Cardinals are probably looking at the Raiders like the Raiders are looking at the Cardinals. Like, and those other three teams in the division are tough. I mean, these teams are going to get better, but those other three are tough. And so, I'm looking at the Cardinals like, yeah, they'll be a tough game, but those other three are the ones to worry about. I'm sure that's exactly what folks that cover the Cardinals are saying at this time as well. 702-365-9200. Let's see. We got this one from Brent. I do think the Raiders are being overlooked. Everyone is on about the Chiefs having a bounce-back year. The Broncos continuing what they did last year. For some reason, nationally, Herbert is just so amazing. They can't, but he to sleep on the Raiders. Okay, I get what you're saying. Ari, I don't know, man. The text lines.
My brain just processed that.
Yeah, that's probably what he meant. They can't help but to sleep on the Raiders. That works. I can put those two together. I'll take it. Sometimes the text line gets a little wonky, but. Yeah, I know. So you got to rock with us here. You just understand that we're not as dumb as we sound at some points. It's just that the text line, the text line just throws us off at times. But yeah, I mean, and I think more people, to be honest with you, I think more people are starting to question Justin Herbert. I do feel like that we were kind of early to the party on questioning Justin Herbert, and I know people used to call into this show. I was like, I don't believe you're saying that about Justin Herbert, and I feel very much that he's probably underachieved for his expectations. I think he's a really good quarterback, but when pushes come to shove, he hasn't had the success that I think everyone expected him to have. Well, look, he hasn't won a playoff game yet, right? And he's in the $50 million a year club. So when you're in the $50 million a year club, the expectations are higher. I do believe really good quarterback, just hasn't got it done. So where do you put that? But I think that's a conversation that more people are starting to talk about daily, and maybe it's just the circles that I talk with, but it just seems like more people are starting to understand that, wait, hold on, he's really good, but you still haven't seen what you're expecting to see, and there's always felt like a built-in excuse. Oh, well, the offensive line. Oh, well, he doesn't have any weapons. Oh, well, his coach put him in a bad position. All right, well, you can say that about the Raiders every year. Coach was bad. Offensive line was bad. Weapons weren't there, right? I mean, you can say that about every team, but, you don't. It just seemed like that was always like a built-in excuse for Justin Herbert. And a lot of people are expecting the Chiefs to bounce back and like nothing ever happened. And that's why I said earlier I question, and I'm really intrigued and interested in that Week 4 game because I don't know what to expect. Now, I know when I do the podcast and I do the crossover edition, I'll talk to the guys that host the Chiefs, and they'll tell me, oh, it's just the Raiders. You haven't had very much success against the Chiefs, and that Week 18 game didn't matter. Nobody cared about that game. Like, they'll give me a bad time, and they'll act like that they're eating with silver forks and knives, and that I'm some peasant. And you know what I mean? Like, I ain't even worthy to be on the same show with them. They do it every year, and it's okay. I sit there and I laugh, and I just, all right, that's cool. Go on and get your strut on. Like, you do what you want to do, man. It's like they rocking out there with their peacock feathers, right? They got their chest all poked out, and their feathers are flapping in the wind, but it's a reasonable question, and I'll ask them the question, and they'll probably look at me like I'm some kind of weirdo. What do you mean you're questioning how Patrick Mahomes is going to be? I'm just asking a question. Humility is not their favorite thing. That's not the word that they sign up for. Let's just put it like that. But that's why we do the shows, right? We do the shows to get a little bit of intel and behind the scenes. And I guess when you have as much witting as they've been able to talk about over the last handful of years, I guess you kind of get that way. You kind of feel that way about yourself. Denver is a good question. Is Bo Nix take a step forward? Is he fully recovered from his surgery that he had? How does the offense look now with Davis Webb calling the plays? Remember, this is not Sean Payton calling the plays. Some people think it's going to be better. That's what I've heard. Hey, it's going to be better. It's going to be more opened up. Sean Payton doesn't open things up until the end of the game when they're losing. Remember how many one-score games they won? That's the reason I think they'll regress. They won a lot of one-score games last year. And normally, Raider Nation, go back to 2021, normally you regress. If you win a lot of one-score games one year, you know what you do the next year? You lose a lot of those one-score games. If you're relatively healthy one year, the next year you're probably usually banged up. It's just a numbers game. I can't explain it. I'm not a mathematician. I just know that it's the truth. All right? And we'll see some regression. So I guess for the Raiders, the best thing for them would be is if everyone kind of took a slight step back. And you know how everyone takes a slight step back? The Raiders win some games in the division, right? Because everyone's looking at the division like, all right, this is the Chiefs, the Broncos, or the Chargers to win. But what if the Raiders beat all three of those teams just once? How does that affect the end standings? They literally could ruin someone's season. And that's why the schedule is set up the way it is. It's backloaded with division games, just like the last game of the season. How great would it be for the Raiders to go on the road, Week 18, beat the Chiefs, and maybe keep them out the playoffs? Or elevate themselves into the playoffs. I mean, there's so many different ways to look at it, but that's why the schedule makers try to set the schedule up the way that they do. So if they're worth the salt, and they are improved like we believe that they can be improved, just imagine them winning against each one of the division opponents, just once. How that could end up changing the outcome of the standings and who ends up going to the postseason, who doesn't. They could really put a monkey wrench in someone's plans. Just like they were winning that Thursday night game against the Broncos in Denver, a game that I felt like that they should have won. And I felt like the minute that game was lost was the minute that Ashton Genty broke off like a 35-yard run and that holding penalty hit them, and they were never the same. But it was like a rock fight out there, right? I mean, there wasn't a lot of scoring. I felt like they easily could have won that game, but they're not good at overcoming those kind of situations. 1st and 20. 1st and what? 1st and 20. I was looking at some numbers earlier today that was, just kind of embarrassing. Raiders offense in 2025 averaged 14.2 points per game. 2024, only 18.2 points per game. 2023, only 19.5 points per game. There was 3 seasons in a row that the Raiders have had where they haven't averaged 20 points a game. 3 seasons. 2022, they had 23.2 points per game. 21, 22 points per game. And in 20, their first year here, which is a weird year because of the COVID year and there wasn't fans in the stands, in 2020 they averaged 27 points per game. 27. The problem is their defense gave up 29. So you do the math. Again, Ari, the math ain't mathing, right? I mean, they haven't been able to put it together consistently. And it's funny, the one year that they were consistent across the board was 2023 when Antonio Pierce took over halfway through. They only averaged 19.5 points per game, but you know what they gave up per game? 19.5 points per game. So, I mean, at least that gives you a chance, though, right? You're not giving up 29 points. In 2020, they gave up damn near 30 points a game, 29.9. 21, 25.8. 22, 24.6. 23, 19.5. 24, 25.5. 25, 25.4. So we start talking about the offense being the best defender as well. That helps. You wonder why, they were able to do well in 2023 is they were really balanced, right? The defense did its job, and the Raiders' offense did their job as well. Good enough. Now, obviously, they needed to improve, and they weren't able to do that. But, that's a whole other conversation for another day. We want to get into that. That'll probably be closer to the season. But it was just some numbers that I was looking at. And then I took a peek real quick at Seattle. And, obviously, they have a hell of a defense. But Seattle's offense last year was 8th in the league. 351 yards per game, 228.1 passing yards, 123.3 rushing yards, and they averaged 28.4 points per game. But, and everyone's like, oh, man, the Raiders' offense is going to be great. They're going to do that. Hold on now. Their defense was fantastic. They held opponents to 17 points a game. They had 18 interceptions as a team, 47 sacks, 9 forced fumbles, 7 fumble recoveries. And here's the number that's going to get you. All right, you sitting down waiting for this one? Here's the number that's going to get you for the Seahawks defense, what they did last year. 7 fumble recoveries and 5 fumble TDs. 5. 5. I mean, the Raiders created, 8 turnovers last year? Was it 8? Seattle had 5 touchdowns.
That's awesome.
By way of their defense last year. So as much as we could look at the numbers and crunch them and say, oh, this is what you should expect. The defense played a lot of role of that. So if you have a complementary offense to a complementary defense, it's going to help out. If you have a great defense, it's going to obviously help out your offense as well. So just a couple numbers that I want to throw your way. But again, ask the question, are the Raiders being overlooked right now? Do you expect them to outperform expectations, and why? Let us know your thoughts. 702-365-9200. We close out hour number 1. Hearing from you. It's RaiderNation Radio 920.
From under center, Kirk Cousins' passer rating was 100.7. When he was in shotgun or pistol, it was 80.1. And obviously, they're using a lot more play action when he's under center. So there is a world where Kirk can be productive when things are going right. When the run game is good and you're able to get play action, he's going to be productive. And there's going to be certain games where things are going right and he's going to throw for 300 yards. And, he looks like the old Kirk Cousins. But the problem is it's very fragile. Like, if things fall apart, he's going to fall apart.
You're listening to Unnecessary Roughness with your boy Q. Brought to you by Meineke, doing car care right.
That's the good and the bad right there. Ted Wynn, Just Win Pod, talking about Kirk Cousins. And when things are going right, things could go really right, and look really good. When things are going bad, they can get bad, right? They can get really, really bad. But, that's kind of the nature of the beast, right? I get it that Kirk Cousins is older. I get it that, he's coming back from his time there in Atlanta where he didn't look great. We all remember that Week 15 game when the Falcons came to Allegiant Stadium and how he looked, and I believe he was replaced in the starting lineup the next week by Michael Penix. I think he's a lot healthier just from what I've seen so far, but we'll really start to get a big dose of how healthy is he starting on Wednesday when they go full throttle at practice starting at 7:30 in the morning. It is Unnecessary Roughness here on RaiderNation Radio 920. We tentatively have rescheduled Kirk Morrison for 3:30. Having a little cell phone tower issues. I'm not going to mention the company, but there may have been a commercial for that company that just aired a few minutes ago. I'll just throw it out there like that. You do the work. I ain't going to do it. I'm not going to do the heavy lifting, but it was pretty funny how that happened. But these things happen. It's 100 and something outside, and you know how things go. So everything is temperamental. So we do expect to have Kirk around 3:30 or so. We'll at least try again there. We do have Paul Gutierrez, Raiders.com. He'll join us coming up. Phone. Hopefully the phone works. He'll be doing that in a couple minutes as well. We threw that question out there. Are the Raiders being overlooked right now? Do you expect them to outperform expectations, and why? And got a really good text from our guy Sean in the 916. It's always great to hear from Sean. He said, Q, I did a breakdown on all of Rick Dennison's stops as the offensive line coach, or even having heavy influence on the offensive line, and it comes down to this. In run blocking, he consistently has teams ranked 5 to 10, and is passing 15th to 25th. If we go all together, we could be looking at an offensive line ranking that could settle in the range of 12 to 20th. Not to mention he consistently brings sacks totals down. If Rick can get it done, look out. As always, God bless and go Raiders. So there you go. So if you want to talk about overlooking, maybe the Raiders are getting overlooked because people question how that offensive line is going to be. So if they play well, to the point that Sean's bringing up, maybe Kirk Cousins doesn't look fragile and doesn't fall apart, and he plays really well. Or Fernando Mendoza gets in. They pass the sticks to him, and he doesn't look fragile. He doesn't fall apart. Instead, he excels. Ashton Genty, same thing. So, all roads lead back to the offensive line. We talked about that in great detail. That'll be one of the biggest storylines in camp. If there was no Fernando Mendoza in camp, that would be the biggest storyline coming up, is the offensive line, the health of it, and who's the leaders in the clubhouse to be on that starting offensive line and it coming together. But since Fernando Mendoza's out there, obviously that's going to be something that's going to be talked about on the daily. And then, boom, the offensive line will follow right after that. If Rick Dennison is able to get that offensive line even middle of the pack, and I believe he can because he's got the skins on the wall. He hasn't hung around the league and have 4 Super Bowl titles and Super Bowl rings for no reason. You know what I mean? He didn't get them because, hey, we really like Rick. Rick's a good guy. Let's just keep him around the organization. Well, what's he doing? Who cares? Rick's cool. It doesn't work like that. He's really skilled at what he does. He's proven at what he does. So I do believe with the upgrade in the coaching and the way that they plan on implementing the offense, I think you're going to see a lot better offensive line. Now, what does that mean as far as ranking? I don't know. But it's got to be better than it was last year. And if it is, you're truly giving the Raiders a chance. That's all the weapons and obviously the quarterback as well. Keep your feedback coming at 702-365-9200. Hour number 2 is on the way. Paul Gutierrez from Raiders.com.
Well, first of all, Mr. Gutierrez, I appreciate you having me on. It means a lot. When I first got to minicamp, it was a whirlwind. The playbook's thrown at you, you're learning the plays of the morning, and then 30 minutes later, you're on the field repping it against a live defense. So it's a lot coming at you, but that positively stresses your mind, your body, making you do new movements, and it forces you to learn quick. You essentially hop on the train or get left behind.
Right.
And at that point, your only option is to jump on the train.
It's Unnecessary Roughness. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right. Here's your boy Q.
Now, there was plenty going on in that intro as we kick off hour number 2 of the show. That was a old movie reference that Ari kind of gave me a little bit behind the scenes on a little while ago. And whenever you hear a lot going on in the intro, it's not from the brainchild of me. Oh, I mean, I have my own issues. It's not from the brainchild of Ari. He, too, has his own issues. But it comes from the brainchild of one Paul Gutierrez from Raiders.com, who joins us now here on RaiderNation Radio 920. And, Paul G., thanks so much for your time. Appreciate you. We made it to training camp, but you got to let us know, man. You got to break down that intro there as your walk-up song.
Yeah, so I also have a lot of issues, obviously. So, yeah, that was, it's funny listening to Fernando talk about jumping on the train. I saw Money Train was on recently. I was like, wait a minute, that's Woody and Wesley. What was the first movie they did together? That's right, Wildcats. So I started watching Wildcats, and that song came up, and I'm like, wow, that took me back to 1986. I remember seeing that in the movie theater. Goldie Hawn is the coach. LL Cool J does the theme song, which we just heard. So I said, you know what? We're getting ready to start training camp. We need a football song. It's nowhere near Curtis Blow with basketball, but football, why not? We'll do something like that. We'll get things going. And then Ari, again, the genius that he is on the wheels of steel, mixes that up with Fernando, again, calling me Mr. Gutierrez. I had to tell him thank you so much for the respect, but Mr. Gutierrez was my grandpa. I'm just Paul, so let's keep it moving. So, no, that's, again, a lot going on because you got things going on. Ari's got things, and so do I. So that's why this works.
Yeah, it works really, really well. And man, I said it at the beginning of the show. Fernando, he says all the right things. He says it the right way. Always showing a lot of respect when he talks to you or anyone else. I mean, he's just that kind of dude. But you sat down with him in the podcast studio upon further review. Really good stuff. What was it like sitting down with the number 1 overall pick, knowing that now we're on the eve really of training camp?
Cool. It was very cool. I mean, like you said, he's the number 1 overall pick, and he's just a dude, right? He just comes in. He's respectful. He says the right things. He knows what to say. Probably more importantly, knows what not to say. But in terms of how the interview went, we hit on just where his mindset is coming into a quote-unquote competition. And as he said, yeah, it's nice because the entire room, they're competing with each other. They're not competing against each other. And I know that you can, you kind of thread the needle there. Well, what does that mean? They're really rooting for each other because, as he explained it to me, if everybody is at the top of their game and playing really well, whoever emerges from there is going to give the team the best chance to win games, which at the end of the day is what the ultimate goal should be. And you just need to be a good teammate that way. So that's the way he's approaching it. And then from him in particular, he talked about all the things that he's got at his disposal. And the exact quote was, it's all in the palm of my hand. I just now need to take advantage of it and move forward.
Yeah, and look, the thing about it is there's no doubt if he's going to take advantage of it, right? Like, that's the sense that I get. I have no doubt that he's going to be in his playbook. I have no doubt that he's going to be picking the brain of Kirk Cousins and others and asking questions, the why, right? I mean, he seems like he's that dude without me ever having a sit-down conversation with him. It just seems like his attention to detail and his want to be great is definitely there.
Yeah, and then that's what he mentioned. Like, I mentioned Kirk and Aiden being in the room, and he was quick to bring up Jacob Clark, another rookie that's in camp and in the room with him too. So when you have those four in there, he's just really, everything about him is about the attention to detail. And it goes back to him wanting Tom Flores' blessing to wear number 15. And I know a million times the Raiders don't retire numbers, and many people have worn 15, especially like Jeff Hostetler. But it meant something to him because he knows the history. And the fact that Tom Flores was the first ever quarterback in franchise history and that he's a Hall of Fame coach. So it's those little things there that really make a difference with him. Now, does it translate onto the field? Well, that's what training camp's for. We're going to find out what it looks like and how it feels and what it sees and what he sees when he's on the field. So, we saw a lot of things during minicamp and OTAs and now it gets real. As he said, he was positively stressed by an overload of information when he first got here. And he said that should only help him in training camp because now his mind and his body would be used to it. He'd be like, oh, yeah, this, for lack of a better term, he said, yeah, this will be easy because we've already gone through this one time. Now we just need to apply it on the field.
Isn't that the mindset even for game day? Going through all your stress during the week and practice and in the film room, it should, in theory, make the game day easier because you've already been through it. The hard part is the work that you put in leading up to it. It feels like that's the same mindset that he's taking going into training camp.
It is, and there's nothing really revolutionary about that other than he is a rookie coming in who 2 years ago not many people in the NFL would have known who he was, other than he was a guy that was a Cal, right, and had a good arm and a little bit of athleticism. Last year he took college football by storm. Whoever would have thought Indiana would win a national title with a guy named Mendoza from Miami? So
right.
It just So who had played at Cal? Yeah. So it's just there's everything about him. Every time he would kind of come back to this, he would say it's been a whirlwind, but the only word that he could use that would aptly describe all of it was blessed. And that goes from being drafted by the Raiders to the connection with Tom Brady, to the connection to Tom Flores, to this competition, quote unquote, however you want to describe it, in the quarterback room coming into training camp. He just says he's just blessed above all.
Paul Gutierrez, Raiders.com, is with us here at Raider Nation Radio 920. Unnecessary roughness. You were around the team, covering the team when Derek Carr was drafted in 2014 in the second round, and I know he provided a lot of hope and excitement for Raider Nation because they were searching for that next quarterback. What does Fernando Mendoza, what does he provide? What are you hearing from family and friends when they talk about Fernando Mendoza being in the Raiders organization?
There's been guys in this locker room that have kind of sucked the oxygen out of the locker room, so to speak, by the attention they command and kind of the things that come with them. Fernando instead is a breath of fresh air, if that makes sense. So it's the complete opposite. And that's not to say that, he's we're all human, but that's just what he's bringing right here and right now. There's just something about him that's just kind of like easy to root for, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
When you talk to him, there is kind of a little bit of a halting way, the way he talks. I know a lot of people talk about that, but it's genuine. And that's the one thing you can say about him the most is that he is genuine. And he really does appreciate the station in life that he's in right now. So that to me is really what's interesting about him, cool about him, and getting that opportunity to talk to him the day after he signed his contract. He was able to kind of just exhale and, okay, now I can get to work. And he's been going to work already, but now he does. That's one less thing he's got to worry about, and now he really just gets to go to work and start the job.
And he sounded like on that, upon further review, you sitting down with him, asking him about his contract, he sounded like he was very relieved that it was done and that he didn't have to miss any camp. Like, it, to me, seemed like it was very important for him to make sure he got that done, gets to camp on time, and like you keep saying, genuine. It wasn't something that was rehearsed or forced.
No. And we tried to get him the day that he signed, but there's a lot of stuff going on. So we got him the next day, and that was fine. And even before, just coming, after the workouts and stuff for the rookies and the meetings and everything, he genuinely came in and he was just ready to go and gave me as much time as I needed. And the cool thing about it, like at the end of the he's a big Star Wars fan. I'm a big Star Wars fan. I showed him this photo that my son, who's also a Star Wars fan, drew of the Mandalorian, in Raider gear and everything like that. And, Fernando calls himself the Mandalorian. So I had to show him this picture that my son drew for me for Father's Day, and he looked at it and he was just blown away. Like, man, tell him that's amazing, blah, blah, blah. So it's on the podcast, on the video side of things. If you watch it on YouTube, you see his reaction to seeing that. Again, just a genuine guy that, again, is a big kid, like all these guys really are, playing a kid's game, professional football, but now it gets ramped up just a little bit more.
It's funny you mentioned Star Wars, and this is completely into another conversation, but the other day we were talking about Star Wars on ESPN. It was me and Emmett, and I said, I don't really know too much about Star Wars. Like, I'm not really, a movie guy anyway, so Star Wars I really haven't leaned into. And so he asked me how many characters I could name. And I said, I got a couple in my bag. And one, I should have had Darth Vader, no problem. Like, that should have been a no-brainer. Obviously, with the Raiders and everything. That was the one I didn't get. I said CP3O and R2D2. And he said, how is that the first two that came to your mind? I was like, I don't know. It's just the ones that stuck out. So I don't know. There you go. Those are the only two I got, by the way.
Did you say CP3O?
I did.
C3PO. Q, come on, man.
Well, there's, CP3, Chris Paul, and, my bad. But, yeah, he couldn't believe that those are the two characters that I got. I was like, well, I think they're pretty popular, aren't they? So
They're very popular. And you know what? If I'm not mistaken, I believe all of those two guys were in every single Star Wars movie. So there's a reason that they stuck in your head.
There you go. But it really was a bad on my part that I didn't get Darth Vader. Like, that should have been simple, right? That should have been the easiest. That should have, man. So,
Al Davis met Darth Vader at a game at the Coliseum. So
I remember that. Yes, exactly. And then I did get the Death Star, though, only because they called, Allegiant the Death Star, and then someone said, wait, it can't be the Death Star. It always blows up. So that's all I remember. So there you go.
Yeah. I remember telling Mark Davis, too, when he called it the Death Star. I said, they blew the Death Star up not once but twice. And he goes, well, this one's made to last.
There you go. Yeah. Well, that's my Star Wars knowledge, and that is it. And C3PO, not CP3O.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm learning, Paul. Hey, that's why I'm keeping you around, man. I need to keep my stay up on game. So definitely appreciate the Star Wars knowledge. Again, Paul Gutierrez, Raiders.com is with us here. Raider Nation Radio 920. So I keep saying the biggest storyline in training camp coming up, if it wasn't for Fernando Mendoza, would be the offensive line. I think that's a no-brainer right there. And, I just think that it has to come together pretty quickly. How much attention are you focused in on the offensive line as well when we're there starting on Wednesday?
Oh, a lot. I mean, obviously it is quarterback because you can never talk about the quarterback enough, right? But and this is something that you can talk until you're blue in the face about this too, is everybody wants to know, and I was on with the morning guys late last week, and their theme was, well, how do you know when Fernando's ready? And I'm like, you know what? It's not necessarily if and when Fernando's ready. It's if and when that offensive line can protect him is going to be what's going to unlock him, whether he's ready or not. Because if that offensive line it looks like it did last year, it doesn't matter if Fernando's ready or not because he's going to be running for his life and getting bumped, and Ashton Jennings is going to be getting hit behind the line of scrimmage again. So that, to me, is right there as the most important storyline besides the non-quarterback division, right? It's the offensive line. And that's one. And then to me, like we talked about last week, it's the place kicker competition is 1A for me because special teams wins and loses games too. But, yeah, everything begins and revolves around that offensive line.
Yeah, it really does. And, yeah, special teams is going to be huge. It just feels like to me, and I'm not trying to throw any shade at any of the coaches from last year, it just feels like everything has been upgraded, including the coaches and the way that they have attention to detail on everything. It just seems like all these guys are very detail-oriented and very focused on, if you don't get it right, do it again. And that's kind of my expectation starting on Wednesday.
Yeah, and last year you had a lot of guys with resumes. And it didn't really translate. So now you're kind of going back to grinders, so to speak, who don't have the resumes that last year's staff did. And like you said, we're not throwing shade at anybody here, but there seems to be a little bit more of a hunger, if nothing else. And it's interesting to say that, considering the staff that came from Seattle, they're coming with their new Super Bowl rings too. So they know how to win, and yet they still have something to prove because they're trying to do it again, but someplace else.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see how, as I've been saying, the sausage is made and seeing how they put all this together from, we got a little taste test for OTAs, a little taste test with mandatory minicamp, but it's the real deal starting on Wednesday, so we're going to get to see it all. Well, Paul, we'll close out with this. This is a question I threw out there to Raider Nation. Is there a chance that the Raiders could be overlooked right now? Like, do you expect them to outperform the expectations? And the reason I brought this up is former Raider Gerald McCoy was on with the Rich Eisen show and Rich Eisen in general and just said that he feels like that they could be a sleeper team this year, that not a lot of expectations, but they could be playing a little bit bigger and a little bit better than most people expect.
Absolutely. They're literally playing with house money. And I don't just say that because it's Las Vegas. They're playing with house money because not a lot of people expect them to do much. So it's like Fernando said, just go out there and play and see what happens. And you've got all these other teams. They've got expectations. The Chargers usually charger themselves. The Chiefs, we don't know with Patrick Mahomes in his knee. And the Broncos, I'm sorry, I'm just not a believer in them, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. So if they can go out there and they can get off to a decent start, the schedule gets pretty brutal in the middle of the season, and just kind of weather the storm and see what happens. And again, if Kirk Cousins emerges as the starting quarterback, and he doesn't relinquish the role, that's probably a good thing because that probably means the Raiders are playing well and winning games. And I wouldn't be mad. I would not be mad if all of a sudden, and again, I say this on July 27th, 2 days before training camp first practice, but I wouldn't be mad if Fernando Mendoza got the Carson Palmer treatment and redshirted his first year because Carson Palmer had a pretty decent borderline Hall of Fame career himself. So wouldn't be mad at that.
No, not at all. And we all know what the end-all, be-all goal is going to be, and the results are going to be Fernando Mendoza in the starting lineup. But, yeah, if they have to delay him getting there because the Raiders are having a lot of success, I'll take it. Sign me up. I have no problem with that at all. Again, Paul Gutierrez, Raiders.com with us here, Raider Nation Radio 920. Well, fantastic stuff as always. We'll talk to Coach tomorrow. We'll see the guys out there on the practice field coming up on Wednesday. What are you going to be working on that we should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, so besides Fernando, I also got Kieran Crawford came in the podcast studio, so that drops on Wednesday, I believe, and it was great just to catch up with him, and you could just feel this intensity, this ruggedness to him that kind of comes through his eyes when you're talking to him. Not in a scary fashion, but just this intensity that's there, and this is a guy, remember, did not start playing organized football until his senior year of high school, went to Arkansas State for 2 years, then to Auburn for 2 years, and suddenly he's a third-round draft pick, and he should be in the rotation rushing the passer with the Raiders. So his journey from not playing football until 2021 to being a third-round draft pick is pretty interesting. So that's dropping on Wednesday, article plus the podcast as well.
I'm going to pass this little piece of information on to you. I just now saw this by way of our friend called Twitter. Longtime Bucs defensive tackle Vita Vea has requested a trade, sources say. Ooh. So that's obviously contract related. I'll tell you that right now. July 27th, that is 1,000% contract related, but we will pay attention to that for sure. Paul, great stuff as always, my man. Thanks so much for your time. You know I appreciate you.
Sounds good. And I drafted Vita Vea for the Raiders in a mock draft for ESPN back in the day, so we'll see.
There it is. I like it. Tying it all together. That's why he's Paul G., one of the best to do it. Paul Gutierrez, Raiders.com. And, yeah, that's pretty interesting right there, huh? Longtime Bucs defensive tackle Vita Vea has requested a trade. Sources say that comes from Ian Rappaport about 30 seconds ago on Twitter. And Ari Mayrov, our good friend from 33rdteam.com, has put out the breaking news as well. Adam Schefter the same. So you know how that goes. Again, it is always contract related. Like John McClain says, Q, it's always about the money. Oh, it's not about the money. No. It is always about the money. So that's interesting. That's obviously a storyline to follow as well. Taking a look at some of these texts that we got when I threw the question out there, are the Raiders being overlooked right now? Do you expect them to outperform their expectations? And why? Central Coast Raiders hit us with a really good text. Senor Q, Raiders are definitely being overlooked. They went 3-14, league worst, largely because of quarterback play and the offensive line. When you're that bad, nobody puts you in playoff conversation in July. The quarterback upgrade is big from last year's quarterback room to adding a 14-year vet in Cousins. Yes, I know we don't know what Cousins we're getting, but I'll take Cousins with one leg than what we had last year. If you put Rick Dennison in last year's season, they have 7 to 8 games. They win 7 to 8 games. Go Raiders. That's from Central Coast Raider. And that's the point I was making with Paul. And again, not trying to throw any shade at the coaches from last year. They're coaches in the league for a reason, but it just wasn't getting done, especially on the offensive line. We know that Brendan Carroll was manning that, and it just did not come to fruition. I felt like pretty early on when you saw that they weren't doing any favors for DJ Glaze at the right tackle spot, they didn't adjust. They didn't make any changes. They didn't try to fix anything. It was just like, all right, we're going to keep on doing it. We're going to keep running into that brick wall. Eventually it's going to fall down. No, it's not. The brick wall is going to knock you down. But it just seemed like over and over and over, they're just going to stick with whatever, whatever they thought was right. We're just going to keep doing it. There was no adjustments. Rick Dennison, again, from my, just seeing him out there at practice and the attention to detail that he puts on each and every one of the players, just like the entire coaching staff really does. I feel like that there's going to be a lot of, all right, that wasn't right, let's rep it again. All right, that wasn't right, let's rep it again. There's no wasted motions. There's no too much downtime because they want to get as much in as possible in a limited amount of time. So I just feel like the offensive line has to be better. It just has to be better than what it was last year. As a matter of fact, Ari, do you have that John Gruden sound? When he was doing that AFC West preview and he was breaking down the Raiders and talking about Coach Kubiak and talked about where the Raiders ranked last season in all kind of offensive statistics. Check it out.
Enter Clint Kubiak, who could solve a lot of problems. Not only do they get a young, up-and-coming head coach, they get a guy that can really call plays and coach quarterbacks and run the offense. The guy's outstanding. Remember, the Raiders' offense last year was a disaster. What do you say when you're disappointed, Jake? Ugh. What do you say, Clay? Ugh. What do you say when you're last in points per game, 14.1? What do you say when you're last in 245 yards per game? What about last in rushing, 77 yards a game? What about last with 64 sacks allowed? What about 31st in yards per drive? 31st in time of possession per drive, and 31st in drives that end in a score. Not good. So they need Kubiak to come in here, put his playbook in, and everybody buys into it, and you'll see some improving. I promise you that.
You can't do anything but go up, right? The Raiders were last in everything, and if they weren't last, they were 31st. And as we all know, there's only 32 teams in the league. So, they just about were dead last in everything. And that's what translates into 14 points per game. So, again, when you go back to the conversations, are they being overlooked? Well, there's good reason. But with all the changes, that all they think that could do is bring hope and bring a sense of confidence that it is going to be better, that, these guys are going to, have a better direction that they're going to go. Again, in 2025, 2026, these years, 14 points a game is criminal. Straight up. 14 points per game is absolutely criminal. The NFL has made it a passing league. They've made it really difficult to play defense. They've made it really difficult to play corner, safety, whatever. Edge rushers can't touch the quarterback after they release the ball. They can't even breathe on them or else it's a penalty. They've done everything they can to make the offenses, showcase the offense, at least during the regular season. And to only be able to get 14 points per game, average 14 points per game, like I said, is damn near criminal. And that's why, and I said this last week, and I said it on the podcast today, I envision Clint Kubiak very Sean McVay-like year one with the Rams. Very Sean McVay-like. Where his attention, he's the head coach, so he's got to be the CEO. There's no doubt about that. But, man, he's going to be 10 toes down on the offensive side of things, making sure that offense is worth the salt. And they're giving themselves the best chance. And the only difference between Sean McVay and Clint Kubiak is that Sean McVay had Wade Phillips that he hired as the defensive coordinator. And that's the only difference. Clint Kubiak is obviously turned into Robbie Leonard, who doesn't have experience as a defensive coordinator, defensive line coach. He's a sharp defensive mind. We know that. Really good coach. Just hasn't been in that position before. So there'll be some bumps in the road. There'll be some, missteps here and there. Probably some decisions that he might look back and say he wished he, flipped up and did a little bit differently. But for the most part, I think he'll be okay. But the way to help him out, the way to assist that defense is worth the offense being much better than it was last year. I mean, 31st in yards per drive, 31st in time of possession per drive, 31st in drives that end in a score, last in sacks allowed, 64, last in rushing, 77 yards per game, last in points per game. That's all the summer you need. That's all you need. And that's how, when they say, how do you win 3 games? That's how you win 3 games. Right there. 702-365-9200. Just win Will. E.T. on Star Wars. That's right. That was one of the characters that I was going to say when Emmett asked me to name the Star Wars characters. I said I was going to say E.T., but E.T. on Star Wars. So that was my response. I still can't believe I didn't get Darth Vader. Like, that was the one. Like, it's when you ring the bell, I got the bell rung on me for not at least getting that one. That one, that was – even you don't have to even watch Star Wars to get Darth Vader, especially if you're a part of Raider Nation. If you're talking about the Raiders every day, like Darth Vader and the Raiders go hand in hand. I don't know how. Maybe because I was on the spot. I don't know. Got a little hot underneath the collar or something. I don't know, but not being able to get that one was pretty bad. And then I was going to throw E.T. in there.
That would have been hilarious.
E.T. phones home. He don't Star Wars.
Right. Yeah. Didn't they say something about correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, or just when Will, didn't someone say something about that there was some kind of a cameo?
Yeah, E.T. made a cameo.
All right, so
But I didn't know that.
But if you said it,
I would be lying and lying and lying. I couldn't even play that one off.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes people ask you like, "Hey, you remember this, that, and other?" You're like, "Oh yeah, I remember." And you might slightly remember, or you don't quite remember, but you just want to keep the
trying
conversation
to get out
going.
of that conversation.
Yeah. Keep it pushing. Yeah. There you go. I couldn't even do that. Hey, Q, you remember when E.T. made that appearance in Star Wars?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't. Barry in Baltimore said, "Wow, what a classic movie song, football." Talking about Paul's intro, and he joined the show. Let's see. We got this one from Dave by the Bay. I like that. He says, "Hey, Q, Dave by the Bay here. I'd like to have at least a winning record at home." Okay, I got you. I'd like to have at least a winning record at home. Let's turn it into a place that's tough for visiting teams to win. That's going to end up being a huge key. At some point, and I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, at some point you've got to win at home consistently. You have to. That's those. You know how I always talk about non-negotiables? That's a non-negotiable. You have to start winning at home, and you have to start winning at home consistently. Because right now, visiting fans, visiting teams, they come to Allegiant Stadium like they're going to Disneyland, right? And you can't have that. They've got to feel some type of way about going, knowing, hey, that's going to be a tough out. That's a damn good team that we're going to go play. Or fans, oh, man, I don't know. I'm going to spend a lot of money to go there. It's a fun place to go visit. I don't know if I want to go to that stadium because, well, it's not too often that they lose. Like, at some point, they've got to establish that, and they clearly have not done that since they've been at Allegiant Stadium. Keep that feedback coming at 702-365-9200. Are the Raiders being overlooked right now? Do you expect them to outperform their expectations, and why? Let us know on the text line. I believe we'll have Kirk Morrison joining us next here on RaiderNation Radio 920.
Yeah, the quarterback room is great with Kirk, Aiden, and Jacob. I mean, it is fantastic. And I believe everybody brings a different perspective. All these different perspectives of how people have done things in previous offenses, how they tackle learning the playbook, the play calls. There's just so many different intricacies with an offense. As a quarterback, you need to be essentially all-knowing of the offense.
Right.
For your teammates to have confidence in you when you step out on that field. It's basically all at the palm of my hand, and I just need to take advantage of it.
Right now, we're doing football right on Unnecessary Roughness. Brought to you by Meineke, doing car care right.
little bit more of the conversation that Paul Gutierrez had with Fernando Mendoza upon further review. You can find that on Raiders.com. Check it out on the Raiders YouTube channel. Really good stuff. Paul's done a fantastic job with taking over that show upon further review. He's done a hell of a job, and so definitely want to check that out. And, of course, when you have someone like Fernando Mendoza, the number 1 overall pick, the franchise quarterback, that's even going to get more attention than anyone else. So definitely check it out. But you hear what Mendoza had to say, and it's similar to what Paul mentioned when he joined the show at the top of the hour at 3 o'clock, saying, you know, all the information is right there in the palm of his hand. Fernando Mendoza himself has just got to go ahead and take advantage of it, and I have no doubt in my mind he'll do just that. It is Unnecessary Roughness here on RaiderNation Radio 920. We're still working and efforting to get Kirk Morrison, and we think that we're going to get him around 4 o'clock, so that's kind of the ETA at this point, but, you know, we'll see. We'll see if that's what happens. Again, there's a lot of weird stuff going on that just happens to happen, and you just roll with it, and that's what we'll do around here. So at the meantime, in between time, we'll definitely continue to do football right, and we'll stick with the Fernando Mendoza theme. So off top, former Raiders GM Tom Telesco was on SiriusXM NFL, and he's been doing a lot of these media, whether it's SiriusXM or the ESPN, NFL Network, wherever. He's been on a lot of these different shows as a guest, and he's very knowledgeable, obviously, as a longtime GM. But he was talking about Fernando Mendoza getting that contract taken care of, and the fact that there was never a concern, and even then the plan about Fernando Mendoza, Kirk Cousins, and how the Raiders are going about executing it.
This was definitely going to get done. Tom Delaney's been doing their contracts with the Raiders going back to Al Davis. He's one of the best in the league that does it. So between him and then, you know, I know Fernando Mendoza's representation, they're really fair. Knowing those two groups, there was no doubt that this was going to get done. There was zero chance there was going to be a holdout. So it got done day before he had to report to camp. And, you know, these are the type of things, you know, it sounds small, but it's a you know, big enough negotiation with a big enough number that if you're the player, you know, you'd like as much of that as possible now so you get that money invested. And then, you know, the team's running a business, but never so much that this wasn't going to get done before training camp started. You know, they're going to be patient with it and take their time, which is great. I mean, one thing the Raiders need to do is just take some patience. They have the coaching staff set. They hired a head coach with an offensive background that should work very well with a young quarterback. And they have a plan put together to develop him in the right way. There's different ways to do it, but this is their plan. So it seems like this is not a quarterback competition. This is Kirk Cousins' job going into September. But then after that, like, to me, all bets are off. Like if they're not playing, if he's not playing well, if the offense isn't moving the ball, and if Fernando has shown enough in the meeting rooms on the practice field that he's capable, I think you're going to see him out there at some point.
Again, it will reveal itself when it reveals itself, right? Clint Kubiak says that. Kirk Morrison always says that when he joins the show. And, again, we'll expect to talk to him coming up around 4 o'clock and get his perspective. But there's Tom Telesco talking about Tom Delaney. Obviously does the contracts for the Silver and Black. That was never a problem. We all talked about it on this show. It's going to get done. It's not a matter of if, it was when. And when was before the rookies had to actually get out there and practice and participate. Last Thursday, as a matter of fact, the day that the Raiders rookies reported to camp, the contract was signed, sealed, and delivered. And then obviously that led to Fernando Mendoza being, you know, fired up about his opportunity and speaking with Paul G there upon further review. So, and then you hear the plan about him moving forward. And, you know, everyone has their own plan, and including the Raiders. They have their plan on how they want to make sure that they go about handling their business and not only getting Fernando ready, but getting the team ready for Fernando. There's a couple different ways to think about it. It's not just, as I've said before, it's not just the Raiders and the quarterback. It's the quarterback, but it's the rest of the team. Is a team in a position where they can go out there and they can do what they need to do to be able to you know, complement the quarterback and play at the level that they're all expecting and go out there and put the right foot forward. That's the big goal. Now, again, everyone has their own idea. Everyone has their own plan of what the Raiders should do with Fernando Mendoza, including Pat McAfee, who's a big Fernando Mendoza guy, big on Indiana. Obviously, you know, he does the show there. He played in Indianapolis, so he knows a lot about Fernando Mendoza, and this is what he had to say on the show the other day.
The Raiders, they're a brand new team. Oh, yeah.
Brand new football team.
That's right. Very
Fernando Mendoza, number 1 overall pick. We all assumed Kirk Cousins would be the starting quarterback for them. We all assumed that Fernando would then take over at some point. Then we're seeing the clips. Then we're hearing what Tom Brady's saying to Fernando. Then we're listening to Fernando talk. That's a real quarterback competition happening out there. It's like, why not drop his ass in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think he's ready for it. He's tough enough for it. He's gotten hit. He's been able to survive. I think the thing is, if he gets in there and it all becomes too much, is he going to die? It's like, I think the more that he kind of gets a part of, the more he learns. This guy is a computer. I think people forget. Everybody, remembers, this guy won a Heisman, won a national championship. But is he ready for the big stage? Okay. What big games did he win? Somebody asked.
Yeah.
He won a national championship. He won a national championship. And by the way, the reason and how that, not let alone that throw and operation right there, great catch by Omar Cooper Jr., who's going to be a great pro and everything like that. But Fernando won that national championship, taking it by himself, getting hit 14 times, and then his grit and will putting him into the end zone. And in the Big Ten championship game, we watched him first play of the game get every rib dislodged. He goes to the sideline, and he comes on our show afterwards. He said, I got cracked, no pause, like real deal. Yeah. And then I had to shake myself off and go back out there. He's tough. He's smart. He can spin it. The ball looks small in his hands. We just saw a picture from his practice the other day. Wasn't even holding the laces. Okay, So we wondered if he was going to be able to throw an NFL ball. Yeah, I'm thinking he's pretty comfortable. We are very firm believers in this guy. Very, very firm believers in this. You drop him in the deep end early, I think he's only going to get better, but I'll be excited to see what they end up doing over there. Good luck to their Las Vegas Raiders. Brand new team, 5.5 win total.
Take it. Bullish, very bullish.
I like the Raiders a lot.
Pat McAfee right there talking about the Raiders, and again, talking about Fernando Mendoza in particular, and he sounds like he's leaning to the Vinny Bonsignore camp, right? The Vinny Bonsignore camp, the Amber Thea Harris camp, the camp that says, throw him in there. He's fine. He'll be okay. He'll take his lumps, but he'll be great at it, right? And look, again, it's not one method that's going to figure it all out. It's not just one way. It's not cookie cutter here, and this is the only way to do it. There's so many ways to get this thing done, and the Raiders are going to go about it and do it their way and the way that they're comfortable with it. No matter how loud I get, no matter how loud someone else gets. Like my old guy Nick at the barbershop back in Waco, Texas, used to always tell me, right? It was Look at Me Now barbershop. He used to always tell me, Q, just because you're the loudest in here don't mean you're the right, right? Just because you're loudest don't mean you're correct, right? It don't matter how loud we scream from the mountaintops, whatever our point may be. They've got a plan inside the walls. They've had a plan since day one. They've executed it. We've all given them props on their plan. Why am I going to go against their plan now? Why am I going to say, yeah, they're doing that wrong? Because everything I've seen so far seems like it's been correct. So I'm not gonna sit there and question the guys that know a whole hell of a lot better than me at this stage of the game. So that is how we do football right.
Doing football right on Unnecessary Roughness. Brought to you by Meineke. Doing car care right.
We want to continue to hear from you at 702-365-9200. Pat McAfee sounded like a little bit at the end that he felt like the Raiders were being slept on. Gerald McCoy, he said that he felt like the Raiders were being slept on. What says you? 702-365-9200. Are the Raiders being overlooked right now? Do you expect them to outperform the expectations, and why? And you might not expect them to outperform the expectations because you might have very high expectations for this Raiders team with a new staff, new quarterback, and a lot of new players. Matter of fact, 30 rookies and 16 new veterans. The team projects as it stands right now to have newcomers in 9 of 22 starting positions. Let's go out to San Carlos, talk to our brother Scott. Scott, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Q, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
And you know, expectations are always tough, right? Because I'm a hardcore fan, so obviously you're always probably more optimistic than you should realistically be. But this year, let me put it this way: 5.5 is the over/under. I'm pretty sure. And if it wasn't for the brutal mid portion of the schedule, I would say they're crazy. I would say that's an easy over. But they do have a really tough schedule. It's going to be interesting to see, stuff we've talked about before, the O-line in particular, how they come together. But yeah, to me, realistically, trying to look at the schedule, I'm thinking 7 to 8 wins is not out of the question. And, heck, last year, I mean, there was, blocked the field goal on the Bears, and I mean some other. They could have won 6 games last year. As bad as that team was, it mostly coached, in my humble opinion. But anyway, so yeah, I guess I am. I'm bullish on this year. I'm thinking that 5.5 is kind of an easy over under. I also think the division's not going to be as tough as people think. I think Mahomes is still going to have some time coming back. I don't like Denver. Obviously, they're makes me a little nervous, but I think the Chargers are going to Charger. So I think, like I said, 7-8 wins. I think is where I'd put us.
All right, I like it. Scott, thanks so much for the call. I do appreciate you. Yeah, when it comes to Denver, I don't trust their offense yet. I trust their defense. Their defense is legit, right? There's no way to dissect it and break it down and be like, oh, they're not real. No, they are real. That defense is a real deal. But their offense, I still have questions about. There's so many of these little dink and dunks from Bo Nix. And again, I don't want to just come off and sound like Bo Nix can't play. He's been in the playoffs both years that he's been in the league. So, there's something to be said about that. But I just don't – I don't think that offense is a well-oiled machine. They could be had. Let's put it like that. They won a lot of one-score games last year. And then, of course, they have Davis Webb calling the plays now as opposed to Sean Payton. Is that going to be a positive? It might. We might look back and be like, man, I wish Sean Payton was still calling the plays, right? Davis Webb might be fantastic. Remember, he was in the running for the Raiders head coaching job, amongst others. I know the Browns wanted – well, at least the people in Cleveland thought that the Browns wanted him. Obviously, they didn't end up with him, and I know Arizona had talked to him, and multiple teams had talked to him about being their head coach, and Denver decides, hey, well, look, you come back as our OC, I'll give you the play calling. So that shows how much Sean Payton wanted to keep him in the mix as well. So we'll see. That offense is going to be something to pay attention to, but that defense definitely is legit. And I'm with you when it comes to Kansas City. What's Patrick Mahomes going to look like? That's why that Week 4 game against the Raiders is so interesting to me, because I don't know who Patrick Mahomes will be by Week 4. We hear from you next, 702-365-9200. Keep that feedback coming. Are the Raiders being overlooked right now? Do you expect them to outperform the expectations? And why? Raider 66, I see you. We'll get to you first next here on RaiderNation Radio 920.
The Raiders were really bad at running the ball last year. They were last in the league in yards per game, and they were also 31st in rushing attempts. This one stood out to me. Think about how many times you guys probably shouted at your TV. I know I did it up in the press box, screaming at them to run the ball in certain situations. I would imagine that's not going to be a problem for Clint Kubiak. Okay, this guy wants to run the football.
Now back to Unnecessary Roughness with your boy Q. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right.
Jesse Merrick there, Silver and Black Sports Network, talking about running the ball and how he was in the press box, yelling, run the rock. He's not exaggerating. It was Jesse, me, and Ryan Hogue. We all sat boom, boom, boom next to each other. And, no, we weren't yelling because you're not allowed to cheer in the press box. But we would look at each other like, what in the hell's the problem? Why in the hell can't they just run the rock? Why was it so obvious on 3rd and 1 that they didn't? You know what I mean? It's like it was so many of those conversations, those side conversations in the press box where you realize, okay, I'm not the only one that's thinking this. So I got to get some clarity from someone else. And so, when he says what he said right there on his show, that is fantastic. I do encourage you to check out his podcast that he does. He does a hell of a job. That's real when it came to the lack of the run game for the Silver and Black. And I do expect it to be a lot better under head coach Clint Kubiak. It's Unnecessary Roughness here on RaiderNation Radio 920. We do want to hear from you. 702-365-9200. Are the Raiders being overlooked right now? Do you expect them to outperform expectations, and why? Let's go out to the phone lines, talk to our good friend Raider 66. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Q, how you doing today?
I'm good, brother. How about you?
I'm doing fine. I do not think that the Raiders can over exceed my expectations, because every year I expect them to return to glory. And every year so far I've been disappointed. But I think outside of Raider Nation nationally, I think that they can exceed expectations, because nobody's expecting anything. And rightfully so. We won 3 games last year. We were last in just about every category, as you've just been documenting. And, for the last several years, let's be honest, the Raiders have been the homecoming team for most of the league. I mean, they circle that game. You remember high school, college, the homecoming game? It was supposed to be a team that you could boat race. And that's what we've been. But, even with all of that, last year, as I've said before, we had 4 games against playoff teams that we lost by a total of 7 points. So the possibility is there. We have the talent, and that was with last year's team. This year's team has got so much more talent, so much more positive. So I'm looking at good things. And how do you get that mystique back that the Raiders used to have? Win. You got to win, and that's what we have to do. Q, real quick, if you got some time, Raiders and Star Wars. I want to give you some links here. The two iconic brands have been linked since the first movie. The first movie came out in May of '77. Okay, 4 months earlier, the Raiders won their first Super Bowl. Then in 1980, the second movie came out. 1980, the Raiders won a Super Bowl. In 1983, the third episode came out. Raiders won the Super Bowl. They are linked up. And you know what? The episode numbers on the Star Wars movies, they have Roman numerals just like the Super Bowl. It's pretty cool, huh? And Lyle Alzado was on a sport magazine called Darth Raider. They had T-shirts with his face, Darth Raider. And you know that Lester Hayes anointed himself the only true Jedi Knight in NFL. And that third Super Bowl they won, the name of it was Return of the Jedi. So they've been linked since the beginning. And now the younger kids, it's the Mandalorian. And what do we got? We got our own Mandalorian here as the quarterback and A New Hope. That was the title of the first movie. And that's what we have here with the Raiders. Thanks for indulging me, Q. Have a great day. Go Raiders.
All right. Hey, really good call, Raider 66. Appreciate you. And I love the knowledge there on Star Wars. And, yeah, that was the thing, man. Me not knowing even Darth Vader, that was, my bad. That was on me. But I like how he gave me all the ties there when it came to the Raiders and Star Wars for sure. Really good stuff. Do appreciate that. Real quick from Raider Greg. Hey, Q, Raider Greg again. I know this is off topic but I seen a report just came out about Vita Vea requested trade from the Bucks per Ian Rappaport, being that Spytek helped draft him and always talks a lot about him being the type of lineman you want. Do you see this as a have-to-have for Spytek? I believe that'd be a huge pillar for this line. I know Spytek is on the phone. Thanks. Just want to hear your thoughts. God bless you. God bless Raider Nation. That's Raider Greg on Vita Vea. And I don't know if there's a chance that they're going to go out and make a move. I don't know if they're one Vita Vea away. I know that some fans won't want to hear that because, no, be aggressive. Go get that player. The reason why he wants to trade out of Tampa Bay is because it's a contract situation. So what's the contract going to look like? And if you're not going to give him a contract extension when you trade for him, then you have to hope that you can re-sign him. And I'm not saying the Raiders couldn't re-sign him, but are you going to want to get into a contract dispute? So there's a few things like pros and cons that you got to sit there and think about and you got to weigh. And how much is it going to cost as far as trade capital? The player himself, fantastic. Make that Raiders defense even that much better. Are the Raiders in that position where they want to give up some future assets for a player? And, oh, by the way, you got to give him a big contract extension as well. That's still remain to be seen. But definitely thank you for that text. I appreciate you. And it's definitely going to be a conversation piece for sure. We got hour number 3 on the way. We'll do it next here on RaiderNation Radio 920.
I got a lot to prove, bro. I got a lot to prove. Just trying to prove everybody wrong, man. Everybody. I'm going to make this league pay, bro. If it's not this year, it's coming for sure. Just wait. Just wait. Just wait. Just wait. Just wait.
Bro, we got one life, you know what I mean? You got one opportunity at this. We have one prime as an athlete. We got one shot to maximize everything we got. There's always going to be doubters. There's going to be haters. There's going to be people that say whatever they want. But, like, when you know what you do on a daily basis, you ain't got to explain nothing. The results are going to speak for themselves, you know what I mean? You ain't got to say nothing, explain nothing. Like, I know I'm going to be the most prepared and best conditioned and the most competitive you ever met. And that's what you got to be every single day.
It's Unnecessary Roughness. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right. Here's your boy Q.
And here we go, kicking off hour number 3 of the show. It is Unnecessary Roughness, Raider Nation Radio 920. Come back into the sounds of Mike Washington Jr., rookie running back, and, of course, Max Crosby, talking about proving everybody wrong. Always going to be some doubters, and that could be the general public when they take a look at the silver and black, and that's been the overall theme of the show today, talking about are the Raiders being overlooked right now? Do you expect them to outperform the expectations? And why? That's a question we threw out there to you at 702-365-9200. Of course, this time of year, there's always a lot going on in the National Football League, including Vita Vea requesting a trade from Tampa Bay from the Buccaneers. Ted Wynn from The Athletic, good friend of the show, he tweeted out, sources say he wants to go to a California team or the Raiders. So there's that. It's thrown out there. Obviously, John Spytek, the Raiders GM, has a lot of familiarity with Tampa Bay. Some could look at him as, all right, you go and get him at 31 years old. It's an instant game changer. Now, it's all going to be up to the John Spytek. I don't disagree with that. I don't push back against that. I don't say it's a bad idea. I don't know what John Spytek's thoughts are. I don't know if John Spytek says we need him right now. We need a Vita Vea, who he was there in that organization when he arrived in Tampa Bay. Or if he says I need to continue to let my young dudes build because we're not one Vita Vea away. I don't know. And I know that everyone's not going to want to hear that. There's already been a lot of feedback on Vita Vea. I'm just a weatherman, right? Just passing along the different possibilities out there in the organization. But there's no doubt about it. He immediately makes that Raiders defense, takes it to another level. And I know that he would help with what Rob Leonard, the defensive coordinator, is looking for the most, which is a push from the interior of the defensive line. So we will see what happens with that. But there's been a lot of feedback, like this one from Kyreem. Good day, Q. Do everything to get Vita, please. He makes us an instant chip defense. He's a must. So that's from Kyreem. I don't know if John Spytek is going to feel the same way, but I understand. The one thing I'll say, and I say this with any player that gets traded, when it's a contract dispute, and that's what this is. Like, make no mistake about it. Him and his people are asking for a trade because of a contract. If you're going to do that and you're going to make a trade, don't do like the Texans did with Laramie Tunsil when they traded for him and then let him play before they gave him a contract extension, because then it became real muddy, and then they got pushed up against the wall and backed into the corner where they had to get that contract extension done or else he was going to walk in free agency, and then they would have gave up that contract or gave up that draft capital and then only got a 1-year rental out of him. If you're going to trade for a player and it's a contract dispute, trade for that player and extend them at the same time. That's always been my philosophy. Now, I'm not no front office. I'm not an exec. I'm not any of those things. Just my thoughts. Those are always my thoughts when it comes to contract disputes. Take care of the headache first, because the contract is the headache. You know, get the headache out of the way. Once that's out of the way, then you're good to go. When they traded for Devontae, gave him a contract. When they traded for AB, they traded for him, gave him a contract. And I know that didn't work out. When they, traded for other players, they've made trades like that. They've given them contract extensions immediately. That's the way to do it, in my opinion. So, again, we'll see how this all plays out. Brent said, I don't think the Raiders try to make a move for Vita Vea. They didn't draft the interior defensive lineman, which means they have faith in the young guys on the roster. That could be true, or they didn't really like what they saw in the draft. One of the two things. I do believe that they like the young guys. I think that they have a lot of confidence in Tonka Hemingway and J.J. Pegues. Obviously, Adam Butler, as a veteran, has been there, done that. Jonah Laulu, I think that he's doing some nice things as well. Vita Vea would be an immediate, upgrade. There's no doubt. But to your point, either they have a lot of confidence in the young guys or they didn't like what they see. But then again, what's the asking price? Tampa Bay is just not going to give them away. At 31 years old, I couldn't tell you. I have no gauge on what the asking price would be. So, again, we will see how this all plays out. And the fact that he might just get a contract extension and stay in Tampa Bay when it's all said and done. Raider Reggie said, Yo, Q and Ari, long time no speak or see, fellas. Raider 66 always shows why he is my reference for all things Raiders. I like that the Raiders are being overlooked. They haven't earned anyone's respect, and that's how it will be. They need to show a major improvement across the board, especially that O-line, that receiver room, and points allowed. I hope they shock the world to make the playoffs, but they have to be at least 500 in the AFC West. Raiders, that's Raider Reggie. That's good to hear from you, my man. And yeah, I agree. They need to at least go 500 in the AFC West. And if they do that, then the AFC West really could be shook up. One of those wins that they get in the division could influence who ends up taking the division. Because there's a lot of expectations for Denver. Kansas City is just supposed to just bounce right back and be that team. And then, of course, the Chargers is always talked about until the Chargers do something like, I don't know, Charger. And then they're not. Jason in Baltimore, it's always good to hear from him. Say, what's up, Q? We are back. And I do think that the Raiders are being overlooked by many. I understand that the team won 3 games last year. But I think most people aren't talking about how poorly the team was coached. I also think we got a good infusion of talent. I think every team in the division has something to prove. I don't think Denver's running the show all of a sudden. I think just the upgrade in coaching is good for 5 or 6 wins alone. I think expectations will be exceeded for sure. So it's always good when you get the for sure, right? When you get that at the end, you know that you are good to go. So, Jason, it's always great to hear from you, and I do think that the coaching is going to help in a major way. I really do. And again, I'm not trying to throw shade at last year's coaching staff, but it didn't work because it wasn't all in lockstep. It wasn't all together. It wasn't all on the same page. It all had its own agenda. Like me and Ari wouldn't work if he had his own agenda and I had my own agenda, and we're trying to work together. It's not going to work, right? He does what he does. I trust what he does and do, or whatever you want to call it, and he trusts me. And so he knows that I know exactly how to play off of whatever he puts together, and he knows to put together whatever I'm talking about. Right? I mean, it's just it works hand in hand. But you just have to be on the same page. And in football, it's the ultimate team sport. Well, that goes for the coaches as well. So you can't have one coach that's teaching a certain scheme defensively, and then you have a defensive coordinator that's doing something else. And so as Eric Stokes even mentioned, hey, you know, they're trying to blend the two defenses, and we're still learning. It was week 10 at that point. They're still learning. By week 10, if you ain't already learned, guess what? You're already out of there. Like my barber says over at Indicut, beat it, Toots. Right? If you haven't figured it out by week 10, the league is going to tell you, beat it, Toots. It's that simple. You know, it's just it's there ain't no other two ways to put it. 702-365-9200. We do want to hear from you. Are the Raiders being overlooked right now? Do you expect them to outperform their expectations, and why? Let us know your thoughts. Let's go out to San Jose, the 408, talk to our guy, Robert. Big Rob, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Thanks for taking my call, Q. I put some money on the Raiders when I was up in Reno a few weeks ago. It was 4th of July weekend, and to win 9+. So Clint Kubiak is the offensive guy we think he is. As Bill Walsh said, a great offensive mind is going to coach you to 8 or 9 victories just because he's going to out-coach the defensive coordinator on the other side. So we'll see if Clint Kubiak is the guy that we hope that he is. In terms of Villa, I remember seeing him in high school at Milpitas High School. If you have the chance maybe to offer a second-round pick and extend him, I agree with you. But even if you don't extend him, couldn't you franchise him?
Yeah, you could, but why make that player angry when he's already angry over the contract?
Oh, I get it, and I agree with you in terms of go ahead and get that out of the way. Right now, one of the reasons I guess that Tampa Bay may be having some issues is that they have to pay Baker Mayfield too at this point in time, and Raiders are operating on a quarterback-friendly contract situation-wise. So this might be the opportunity to make a move like that, and hey, why not go for it this year?
All right. Hey, thanks for the call, Robert. Definitely appreciate you. And, yeah, I mean, look, again, I think that John Spytek is smart enough to obviously pick up the phone and see what the price of doing business would be. I just don't think that you flirt around and dance around and risk really putting the player in a bad situation. If you trade for him, you don't extend him, and then you're like, it's cool. I could just franchise him because every player wants to be franchised. Like, nobody ever wants to be franchised except for George Pickens. George Pickens is a bad free agent like me. Like, I'd be a bad free agent. Q, here's the contract. Yep, cool. Right? This is more money than I've ever had. I'm in. Right? George Pickens, as soon as they threw the franchise tag at him in Dallas and it was $27 million fully guaranteed, he's like, yep, sold. Sign me up. And look, again, that's a lot of money. Most players don't want that. And he signed that franchise tag. Remember around the draft, I thought he was going to get traded on draft day because he signed that. And that's the only way you could trade the player is if he's under contract. So I was like, wow, he signed that thing fast. Normally, players don't like to be franchised. So I wouldn't want the Raiders to trade for a guy and then not sign him to an extension and then say, well, our fall safe is that we can always franchise him because that's just going to anger him more. And he's already asking for a trade because of the contract situation. So, it's smarter to handle the business right away. Like I said, get rid of the headache now if you can. And, again, I don't even know if the Raiders are interested, but I do believe that John Spytek will at least pick up the phone and find out what the price of doing business is. So thanks so much for the call. Really good stuff as always. 702-365-9200. This one comes from the autumn wind from Maine. What is our cap space looking like? Is it feasible for the Raiders? Always appreciate y'all. Vita, please don't go to the Rams. Yeah, that'd be something, right? That would be something. And, the Raiders cap space, last I saw, I'll have to check right now, it's not that great. That's the other thing. It's definitely not that great. That's why, they're not going to make any real big moves at this stage of the game. I could tell you in 2 seconds exactly. All right, did you already do the...
I will tell you what is in front of me, and then you can tell me if it's right or not.
That's all I need is what's
14.1 to 14.6, according to current figures tracked.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, about $14 million. So, of course, you could always do, gymnastics and everything, and depending on what his salary is this year, and you can give him his extension, and that'll bring down the salary cap percentage to hit. And there's so many things that you can do to make it work, and then you can take the blunt of that contract extension into next year. So $14 million, they can make it work, right? They've got 90 guys under contract, including their quarterback. So they're actually 91 guys. So they're good to go there. I think it's very doable if they so choose to do it. That's going to be the biggest key. So we'll see. All right. Again, the news just broke about 45 minutes ago or so. So it's still fresh as far as I'm concerned. 702-365-9200. We want to continue to hear from you. Let's go out to New Jersey and talk to the Money Man, Money Mitch. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
What's cracking, Q? Ari?
Chilling, man. What's cracking with you?
Watching, babysitting, talking and babysitting at the same time. My big guy, he's having a good time. He's a social butterfly. He just invites himself and starts talking. Amazing. No answers and anything. He just gets in there, starts playing, starts talking about his monster trucks. He knows it. He's a Toy Story fan. He's a good kid, Kyle. First of all, I will go for that trade, Vila. If they go back to 4-3 defense, that would be some defensive line because I like our young guys. I'm really not a fan of the 3-4. I'd rather have the 5-2. And I think we're going to be better this year. We don't have Geno. We got a good backfield, and I like our defensive line. And one more thing, by the way, I really heard that I replayed the Friday show, most of it. And the Swedish guy, he cracked me up. And I think you can get more than an hour's worth. You got to try. You don't try, Q. You do. Q, you have a nice time.
You the same, Money Mitch. I do appreciate that. And he's referencing the call on Friday and said, next time I go on vacation, we need to get an hour worth of Money Mitch calls and just put them on a reel and play them back to back to back. See, Money Mitch is he's earning the hearts of Raider Nation. There you go. So thanks for the call. Definitely appreciate that. Snake Man said trade candidates to land Vitamin V, Mayer, O'Connell, JPJ. I'll just give you the MJ shrug. I'll give you the MJ shrug, right? That's the key. If would it be the price of doing business with a player? Would it be the price of doing business with draft capital? Would it be the price of doing business with both? Right? Again, that's why John Spytek has to pick up the phone, as all responsible GMs will do, just like he picks up the phone whenever someone calls. All respectable and responsible GMs do that as well. He'll do that. I just, again, knowing the way that the Raiders have operated, again, this is just my observations. The way that they've operated up until this point, they haven't looked like they're trying to shortcut anything. Trading for Vita Vea right now would be shortcutting, right? It'd be trying to hop to the front of the line. And maybe that's the piece that they want to hop to the front of the line for. It's very possible. But it just wouldn't fit what they've done so far this offseason. Again, just my observations. I'm not shooting down the thought of it. I'm just telling you what every step has looked like. These guys have been signed as free agents. These guys have been drafted. The trade that they made was Taron Johnson, and it was very little, right? Remember, he was about to get cut from Buffalo, and they decided to do a pick swap. So it wasn't really a big trade. Doesn't mean that they wouldn't do it. I'm just going out, just passing it along. 702-365-9200. Big Rob in Oakland said, my expectations are simple, but have been difficult to achieve. For once, let's get our ish together. I want a high level of organization and preparation so we look competitive and competent on the field. I have faith in the coaches and the young core of the team to build this the right way. With where we have been, everyone should see improvement by the end of the season. As long as everyone does what they're supposed to do, that's both coaches and players. That's Rob in Oakland. And I'll go back to his line that he said, I have faith in the coaches and the young core of the team to build this the right way, which immediately goes back to the conversation I had about Vita Vea and the Raiders, the way that they've gone about building everything. They're attempting to do exactly what Rob said, build it the right way so they can have long, sustained success. So it's not just an overnight, sensation or whatever the case may be. So, again, take it with a grain of salt, but I like Rob's feedback right there. Simple, but have been difficult to achieve. Get our ish together. High-level organization and preparation so we look competitive and competent on the field. That's what it is. Simple. Gustavo in 209Q, it's if Vita's issue is money, going to a no-income tax state is a no-brainer. Suddenly to Las Vegas is super clutch. Yeah. I mean, there's certain things that this state doesn't charge you for. There's certain things in this state they charge you extra for. Let me just tell you. Let's see. If you go and register your car in Texas, it's $75. If you register your car here in Las Vegas, as Ari's eyes just got really big, it is the value of your car. And your car is valued by them, by the fine folks at the DMV. And trust and believe that registration can become very, very high. So, and that's just one example. So it's funny whenever, and I know the Stephen Jones, the Cowboys, Jerry Jones' son, and obviously he's the, vice president or he's the right-hand man to his dad, Jerry. He tried to say that about, I forget what player it was. Well, you should want to come here because it's a no-state income tax. And, yeah, I mean, there's things to like about that, but then there's always something else that they'll get you with. I mean, you're not just going to keep all your money. Trust and believe that. But that's, like I said, just a small little sample size. So maybe, but I think if it comes down to no state income tax, then the contract's probably a lot closer to getting done. You know what I mean? It's not going to be so far away that the no state income tax is going to put the Raiders all of a sudden over the top. He's still looking for a pretty chunky contract extension. So we'll see. Again, it's in the early processes. Matter of fact, Brazy in Vegas said, just say no to Vita. We are not a player away, and he is on the wrong side of 30. Let the youngsters ball. That's what this offseason has shown that the Raiders want to do. Hot Sauce said, Kirk Cousins has played in 5 playoff games in his NFL career, holding an overall record of 1-4. Start Fernando ASAP. Go Raiders. Okay? That'll work. Mike said, I think you wait to see what Rob Leonard's defense looks like before you start bringing in all-pro players and paying out big contracts. There you go. There's a bunch of different subjects. Got everything cooking right now. I like it. 702-365-9200. My man Charles in Oregon is always cooking. Charles in charge. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, Q and I? How you guys doing today, man?
Man, we're great. How are you?
I'm blessed. Hey, I wasn't, like I always say, I wasn't going to call. But when I hear, I want to be a counselor. I'm a counselor. That's what I do professionally, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm gonna provide some counseling here, some therapy for Raider Nation. Stop going after these. He's 31 years old. He's a really good player. We are not a Vita Vea away from winning 12, 13 games next year. Stop wanting to trade for that big name. Stop wanting this. Should we trade for Larry Brown? Who else do we need out there? Stop, man. And so all I got to say is I love Vita Vea, but he's 31 years old. We're building a young core. You don't give up picks. You don't give up JPJ already and give up Michael Mayer? What? Come on, man. Come on. Stay with the young core, keep drafting well, and build this thing right. That's all I got. I want to provide some counsel for you. I want you to understand, Raider Nation, that you can't just grab the big name all the time. That's what's led us to failure. We don't want that anymore. Let's be a real football organization and build it with draft picks and build it with youth. That's all I got. God bless. You guys have a great day.
You do the same, Charles, and that's a really good call. And every year, there's always going to be a disgruntled player or two for the obvious reason. Again, contracts. And do you want to try to do exactly what Charles said? Just throw big money at a guy that's on the wrong side of 30 that, yes, he's still obviously playing at a high level, but for how long? And are you that guy away from being a competitor and get into the, the postseason and make a run? And if your answer is yes, then go for it, right? Then that makes all the sense in the world. If your answer is no, that's not going to improve the team that much, just say that takes you from a 6-win team to an 8-win team. Okay, that's not going to get you in the playoffs. So, again, that's for them. That's not my decision. That's for the front office to decide. But just from observation point of view, from what I've seen so far, from all the moves that they've made, I don't think that they're going to be in that Vita Vea conversation. And when it comes to like a trade of Michael Mayer, the only reason you do that is because he's in the last year of his deal too. That goes for, Aiden O'Connell, who's in the last year of his deal. JPJ, I know, is obviously in the third year of his 4-year deal, but things have been a little sideways with him. So that's why I think those names would be thrown out there as they were. Because, again, at some point, you got to figure out what you're going to do with Michael Mayer. Right? I've been disappointed by the way he's been used his whole career. I mean, he's one of Notre Dame's best all-time tight ends. Like right now, he's one of Notre Dame's best all-time tight ends, and the Raiders aren't really using him for one reason or the other. I would love to see him get into the mix and really compliment Brock Bowers, but it just hasn't happened. And maybe this is the year. Maybe it is, but I'll tell you what, it better be the year. As I always say, you got to S or get off the pot, right? I mean, that's reality. Because if you don't get it done this year, he's a free agent. And there's a whole lot of teams, even with, very little production, there's a lot of teams that will say, you know what, we could use that guy right now. I know that for a fact from all the people that I've talked to on the radio that say, hey, man, is Michael Mayer, is he available? Is he available? You think the Raiders will move him? I can't tell you how many radio hits I've done, and people ask me that question. He's a commodity. So they're going to have to make a decision. His contract's up after this year. Aiden O'Connell's contract is up after this year. All right? So Trey Tucker, contract up after this year. So there's some dudes to pay attention to that the Raiders got to make some decisions on one way or the other. 702-365-9200. Let's get one more quick call in. Let's talk to our guy, Shields Up. Welcome to the show, my man. What's on your mind?
Q, I just got the topic. Are they being overlooked right now? I think they are. And will be continue to be overlooked until we produce on the field and get some wins, man. That's the unfiltered truth. And that's why there's no way up than up. So, and I think they will outperform. That's what I got, man. It's quick. I just signed in. Already told me the topic. I appreciate him helping me out. Some guy brought up. I saw something about Vita Vea.
What's going on? Requested
real quick.
He requested a trade from Tampa Bay.
I'm telling you, man, I loved him when he came out in the draft. I'm not gonna lie, he's a space eater. I mean, I don't know what we give up, but it was definitely shore up that middle. I mean, we got some good young, promising players in that middle. But depends on what we give up. Do we have money? Blah 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 blah. But I would do a double take on that one, man.
Okay.
But that's why I say, yeah, we're being overlooked, man. But that's good. That's good. Let us hide, and then we'll bounce out and get some wins, man. Thanks for taking my call, brother.
Hey, really good stuff. It's always great to hear from you. Shields Up right there, and he's at least taking a double look, right? He's looking back, like he walked by and he saw Vita Vea, and he had to take a quick look back, a little glance over his shoulder real quick. Ain't nobody looking? Let me glance over my shoulder real quick. What would it cost to go get him? Again, it's fine to do the research. It's fine to reach out and say, hey, what's it going to cost to get it done? The smart thing to do, reach out to the agent. Hey, what's he looking for as far as the contract extension? That would be my concern over anything. What's the contract extension look like? What we've seen the Raiders do consistently this offseason is what? Give out free agent deals, about 3-year deals. So do you feel confident that 3-year deal would be a good deal? You know, is that worth it? Are you going to get the maximum player in 3 years? Or are you going to get a really good 1 year and then maybe 2 years is starting to tail off? And starting to, worst case than that, slow down the growth of the young dudes that are there right now. Again, it doesn't seem like a move that the Raiders would make, but obviously it's going to be a conversation piece until something plays out or shakes out one way or the other. Conveniently, we get to talk with Clint Kubiak tomorrow, which I guarantee he's not going to talk about a player under contract with another team. Matter of fact, that's probably exactly what he'll say. We're worried about the players that are here on the team. We got 91 other guys that are going to be out there on the grass starting on Wednesday. Those are the ones that we're worried about. I'll let the people upstairs worry about other people. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be the exact words, but it'll be something close. 702-365-9200. Let us know your thoughts on the Raiders being overlooked right now. Do you expect them to outperform their expectations, and why? We'll hear from you. And we've got another performance that we have to flush. We'll do it all next here on RaiderNation Radio 920.
You know, it's never the right time to lose 12 games in a row, but boy, oh boy, this dirty dozen may just sink the fish. Heading into the break, the Marlins were a fun team. And then, wow, they haven't won since the All-Star break.
It's time to flush it on Unnecessary Roughness. Brought to you by Moonlight Plumbing.
And as we come into the sounds of Locked On Marlins host Sully talking about the Marlins and their 12-game losing streak, you could tell where I'm going with this flushing, brought to you by Moonlight Plumbing. You can check them out, moonlightplumbing.vegas. Don't forget, there is absolutely no job that is too big, no job that is too small for Moonlight. Their services range from residential leaky faucet repair, water heater replacement, the commercial plumbing system installs, full remodels. You want to give them a call, you can. Put them in your phone, 702-355-3938. That's 702-355-3938. You might not need them right now, but you might need them down the line. And when you think about it, man, who was that he was talking about? Moonlightplumbing.vegas. It's another way to get a hold of them. But as you could tell, coming into Unnecessary Roughness here on RaiderNation Radio 920, we hear the sounds of the Marlins. It's because, well, this flushing is coming to you from Major League Baseball and the Miami Marlins, who are currently riding a franchise record 12-game losing streak. The record breaker might have been the most painful of the skid, right? 6 outs from ending their slide. And the Marlins just came unraveled, right? They lost 11 straight, and then, again, they almost got this win. The Padres erased a 2-run deficit with a 4-run 8th inning and won 5-3. 3 previous times in franchise history, the Marlins have lost 11 straight before ending the slide. They did it twice on separate stretches in 98 when the club lost 108 games, and then again in June of 2011. So before the late meltdown on Sunday, the Marlins were in position to have their celebratory post-game handshake. Miami scored 2 runs in the second. Stowers homered in the third for a 3-0 lead. They were feeling good about themselves, and, of course, it all unraveled. The Marlins have done plenty of winning. Before the All-Star break, they were at 52-42, 3 games behind NL East leading Atlanta. Now, not so much. They also had the 3rd NL wildcard spot, but the unraveling began in a weekend home series against Cleveland before the break with the expectation of Saturday's 7-2 loss against San Diego. Miami has lost the other 11 games by 3 runs or fewer. Matter of fact, this team has not won a game since they won 8-4 over Seattle back in July 9th. Miami bats have gone silent during the skid. They're hitting .208 with a .607 OPS. On Sunday, they had a couple hits, but they only really had 5, and Stowers had 2 of them. But they're keeping a positive attitude. They really are. It's funny. After their loss, their 12th loss in a row, their manager, Clayton McCullough, he said this as it appeared on SportsCenter.
we're going to meet this head on. I mean, look, there's no hiding from it, so it's what it is. Like, does anybody feel good? Certainly not. But, to come in here each day and cry about it, make excuses, I don't know what that's going to do.
So he's not going to cry about it. He's not going to make excuses. He also continued on with the way he was feeling about his team because, again, he's trying to make it a positive.
I think more than I'm just encouraged and continue to be that I watch how our staff approaches each day. Nothing has changed. Is that to say that guys feel great, right in there? No, I mean, everybody's beat up right now. I mean, that's just the reality. Then you know what? Every day they come back here, guys they're showing up, they're ready. Guys are coming in still getting prepared. And, when that game starts, all 26 of our players, every member of our staff believes that we're going to win that day's game. So that for me is the encouraging part. That is as difficult as this has been, that each day when we come in, we're very much believing that today is going to be the day that we turn it around.
And today might be the day that they're going to get things turned around. They're actually in the bottom of the third right now, and the Marlins have a 5-2 lead over the Phillies. They started a 3-game series with Philadelphia today, and so far they've only allowed 2 hits to Philadelphia. Now, again, they've scored 2 runs off of those 2 hits, but the Marlins are up 5-2. Philadelphia's committed a couple errors already, but as you know in baseball, it's a long game. So they're trying to snap their 12-game losing streak. They're trying to get to winning ways. Their head coach that you just heard there, their manager Clayton McCullough, is keeping a positive attitude, and that's all you can do at this stage of the game. There's a lot of games that are still remain to be played, but you start getting into that funk where you're on a losing streak like that. Again, loses the 12 straight. They're now sitting there at 52-54. They were well above 500, and now not even close. The only team that they're ahead of in their division is the New York Mets, who are sitting there at 44-62, and they stink. But Miami's not too much better than them. They're 10.5 back of the Atlanta Braves, who lead the NL East. So there you go. Again, that's one of those games that I'm watching to see if they can end the streak. When the Boston Red Sox were on their winning streak, they were riding a 15-game winning streak, I was chiming in on their games, watching their games to see if they can keep on winning, right? Because if a team is streaking like that, one way or the other, you want to pay attention. So I'm locked in on that. They finally lost their 15-game winning streak. Now I'm paying attention to the Marlins to see if they can snap their 12-game losing streak. So that's how it is, one way or the other. But that flushing was brought to you by Moonlight Plumbing, and I'm sure the Marlins are going to appreciate when they can flush that 12-game winning streak right down the drain.
Flush It is brought to you by Moonlight Plumbing. Affordable, dependable plumbing professionals serving Las Vegas since 2016. We mean business.
MoonlightPlumbing.Vegas. Again, you want to check them out. You want to find out some more information, or you got some kind of issues, right? MoonlightPlumbing.Vegas. They will take care of you for sure. So back to the text line, back to the phone line, back to hearing from you on all things silver and black. Of course, we've been talking about are the Raiders being overlooked right now. Do you expect them to outperform the expectations, and why? And this really comes from a conversation that I heard Gerald McCoy having with Rich Eisen on the Rich Eisen Show on ESPN. So we'll get your thoughts at 702-365-9200. But I want you to hear what Gerald McCoy had to say if you're just tuning in, like our guy Shields Up just happened to chime in and Ari gave him the topic of the day. Well, where did the topic come from? Rich Eisen was asking Gerald McCoy for teams that he thought were sleepers in the National Football League, and he chose the Raiders, and this is why.
Well, once a Raider, always a Raider. I'm always going to the Raiders.
I get it.
And if I'm them, I take what they have, and I really look at, is it necessary to throw Mendoza out there right now? A lot of people say, just throw him out there, throw him in the fire, let him. One, Max Crosby has a point to prove. He's a little pissed off. Okay. Actually, he's a lot of pissed off. I was just with Max in Vegas. He has a point to prove, and Max is extremely upset, and he's going to have these guys on a mission.
He's upset about what, Gerald? Like, give me a point. He's upset that the trade got taken back because they didn't believe in his knee, and
yes,
that's what he's pissed about.
That he loves the Raiders, for one.
Okay.
But he was traded. Okay. But then he was given back. So it's almost like they saying, we don't really need you, but we need you. And then the other team is saying, you just kind of lost a step. We don't really trust it.
So he's pissed at the world, is what you're saying.
Max is out to prove a point. I'm Max Crosby for a reason.
Okay.
And he's going to bring the guys with him.
And he's out to prove that point for the Raiders.
Yes. Okay. Quarterback-wise.
Okay.
You got, for me, I just let Kirk Cousins rock. And if you don't have to throw out the kid, then you don't throw out the kid. But this offense I believe that Kirk can run it. It's in that McVay tree, and he just knows how to run this offense. And collectively, I just believe that the Raiders can surprise some people.
Okay.
Everybody else wasn't really not really sleepers. So I had to just kind of, go deep in the bag and just pull somebody out of there.
Yeah. I mean, the team that drafted first overall. That's a good one to choose as a sleeper going in.
Gerald McCoy right there on the Rich Eisen Show talking about the sleepers, and you hear the reason why he picked the silver and black, from Max Crosby being pissed off at the world to this system fitting Kirk Cousins really well, and coming from that McVay Shanahan style. Obviously, we saw what he was able to do, he being Clint Kubiak in Seattle as the offensive coordinator. So I threw the question out there, are the Raiders being overlooked right now? Do you expect them to outperform their expectations? And why? 702-365-9200. Been having some fantastic feedback on today's show. Let's keep that bad boy rolling. Let's go out to L.A., talk to our guy, Houston. Houston in L.A., welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Hope all is well. Man, as far as, okay, so let me get it straight, Big Q. I've been working, man. But, okay, so the question is, as far as
this call is being recorded.
Oh, shoot. Hey, did I do that?
I think so.
Oh, man, I gotta get off
This
of that.
call is no longer being recorded.
Hey, man, you got us on the line with the plug. What's going on here, man? You under government surveillance? What's going on here?
Hey, man, I don't record nothing. My name is Houston from L.A. No, I'm just kidding. But
man, let me find out, man. We're all going to be in trouble pretty soon.
Nah, Kev, nah. All right. I'm taking from as far as our squad, man. Here's the thing. I think we're going to improve on a lot of reasons. For one, we ain't making no dumbass mistakes, man. I'm glad I can say that word. I've thought about it, got a little relaxed, but I think I can say that one. But I don't think we're making dumb mistakes, man. Only thing I didn't like I said, was, and I said this before, was that D tackle out of Ohio State. I liked him a lot, man. So I was a little bummed out like that. But once I saw the improvement of, how good Stooks was, and then all these other good DBs that we coming up on, I mean, it's like secondary is everything. And so when you got 3 or 4 good wide receivers in the AFC West, one good thing about it is that but then people come out of nowhere sometimes. Just like I think a couple of our Raiders are going to come out of nowhere. We're saying that there's not a whole bunch of good receivers, but there's still a good amount now, especially Denver when they upgraded with that cat Waddle, man. I mean, that's something major. So I'm basically saying that we got good DBs now. I think we got a decent selection of linebackers. Want them to stay healthy. I'm just going to say no ifs. Want them to stay healthy. I know they are. And as far as the D-line, I don't think Vita Vea really is worth it at this point. I mean, he's good, no doubt. Mm-hmm. But when I think about our D tackles, man, I think about Hemingway. We got 4 sacks, if I'm mistaken, and he wasn't even in the game that long, bro. It's that's pretty doggone good. And then, I mean, I always like our I'm tripping. I can't even say his name, man. But the D tackle that we've been having for the past couple of years, Butler, he didn't have a real good year last year, but I still respect Butler. Pegues, I have no idea. Throw him out there. Let's see how he is. He's just, as far as I'm concerned, I don't really see a lot. So, I mean, thanks, Pete. But, all right. Besides that, we got a couple more D tackles that I'm really kind of comfortable with having on the team. And then if they don't come out good, then we can just, of course, either redraft next year, but that's what these professional analysts that we have on our squad already, that's what their job is for. They need to look. They need to analyze. I think they're going to make some decent decisions because I like everything thus far, like I said, with the exception of Ohio State guy. And I think we're finally driving in a good direction, and we won't know anything until those pads come on. But I see a lot of positivity in what we're doing thus far. And, man, we may win more games than what we all think, Q? So let's go, man. It's training season time, man. Shoot, let's get it.
There you go. Houston and L.A. or the plug, however you want to call him. I don't know what it is, but we definitely appreciate you and your thoughts. And I honestly think that that's the way that this team is going to go when it comes to Vita Vea. I don't think that they think that that's a wise investment at this time to give up draft capital, give up a contract extension for a couple-year player, right? I mean, that's what it is. I do really, truly believe that John Spytek is trying to build this thing with the youth, build this thing so they can have, years on top of years of stability. And I think that's the direction that they're trying to go. I don't see them making a move, but, we will see as it all plays out. Of course, the news of Vita Vea requesting a trade, just broke about maybe an hour or so ago, maybe a little bit more than an hour ago. So there's a lot of people, a lot of different teams, a lot of content creators for the Raiders and all the teams talking about is Vita Vea the guy that you should go out and make a move for, especially after Ted Wynn put out the tweet that he wants to play in California or for the Raiders. So the Rams, I don't think they have anything that they can really give up at this stage of the game. They traded everybody and everything already. I don't know if the Chargers make sense or if they have the capital or room to make some moves happen. The Raiders, I don't think they're in the market for a Vita Vea. Maybe San Francisco makes all the sense in the world. I mean, he literally played, college ball down the block. So, I mean, he was right there growing up in that area. So he very well could make that happen. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with Vita Vea. But right now he is obviously the conversation of the day when it comes to the National Football League. We'll close out the show hearing from you at 702-365-9200. We'll do it next here on RaiderNation Radio 920.
Now back to Unnecessary Roughness with your boy Q. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right.
Just got a couple minutes left in today's show. I want to make sure I correct myself real quick. I said Vita Vea played college ball down the street from the 49ers. He actually was born in Stanford, and he played college ball at Washington. And then high school, as we had the call earlier, in Milpitas. But, I wanted to make sure I got that correct before we moved on here on Unnecessary Roughness, RaiderNation Radio 920. Obviously, Vita Vea and his request to be traded has taken over the conversation with us here on RaiderNation Radio 920. I'm sure a lot of different teams across the National Football League. Does he make sense for their team? And a lot of people are saying, well, what would it cost? And I don't know what it would cost to trade for him. I don't know what Tampa Bay is looking for. But our good friend Bill Barnwell from ESPN tweeted out, Vea's owed $17 million in the final year of his existing deal. Would imagine something in the ballpark of what Dexter Lawrence is getting from the Bengals would be the ballpark for Vea, which is $47 million combined over the next 2 years. So as everyone sits there and floods the text line and says, go get Vita Vea, go get Vita Vea. 2 years, $47 million. Does that sound reasonable, realistic, something that you think John Spytek and company would want to do based off the offseason that they've had this year and the way that they've operated and the way that they've moved in building this roster? It's definitely something to think about. Just when Will chimed in, getting Vea would be a slap in the face of Adam Butler, Kwity Paye, etc. It's a great name, but we just need to roll with the guys we have in the building, in my opinion. Autumn Wynn from Maine said, I'm interested to see how Guerrero's plans increases our players' longevity on the field. Thinking about people saying Vita being on the wrong side of 30, he's 31. I don't. Just a thought. Okay, so he's thinking that Vita is not on the wrong side of 30. 31 is not a big deal, which, I mean, look, some guys play for a long time, but this is the National Football League, and you start to tail off a little bit. So 31 years old, I don't think it's a big deal if the team is closer to winning than the Raiders are. If we all thought that this Raiders team was that Vita Vea away from, putting them over the top, and that's what's going to make them the AFC West Division champs, because that was the piece that they were missing. That's one conversation. But when this team is trying to figure out how to win games, I don't know if that's the move that you're trying to make at this stage of the game. But again, that's just me. Let's see. Will said, Q, I believe the Raiders are being overlooked. Some people still look at the Raiders as dysfunctional. I feel like the coaching staff is far better than what we've had in a while and is organized. As far as Vita Vea, it'd be nice, but like you said, they have to be willing to extend him right away. Thanks for all that you do for the nation. And we just got this. The Raiders signed the following players today: linebacker Buddy Johnson, defensive end Patrick Johnson, and wide receiver Devin Tompkins. They waived wide receiver Jonathan Brady, linebacker Chris Thomas, and defensive tackle Laki Tassi. It's RaiderNation Radio 920.